You ready? The meeting will come to order. Thank you and welcome everyone for joining us at the day's hearing. And it is indeed an historic hearing. The 1890s land grant African American colleges and universities investing for agriculture and food resiliency, equity, and worldwide global impact. After a brief opening statement, members will receive testimony from our witnesses today, and then the hearing will be open for questions. Members will be recognized in order of seniority, alternating between majority and minority members, and in order of arrival for those members who have joined us after the hearing was called to order. And when you are recognized, you will be asked to unmute your microphones and will have 5 minutes to ask questions or make comments. And if you are not speaking, I ask that you remain muted in order to minimize any background noise. In order to get to as many questions as possible, the timer will stay consistently visible on your screen. We've got so much to do in this God-blessed opportunity that we have today. And we want to get everybody's participation in on this very important hearing. And so I just want to welcome everyone. And as chairman of this House Agriculture Committee, I am so proud and I am so thankful for God blessing me with this opportunity to make history as the first African American to chair, Congress member, to chair this extraordinary committee. And I am so grateful for having a wonderful committee operating in a very strong bipartisan way, and nothing illustrates the bipartisanship of this committee like why we're here today. The 1890s, African American colleges and universities were first brought up by a Republican Senator, Merrill, who did it as we were ending slavery. The key to the South's survival were 1860 colleges that came in each of the 19 border states as well as states. It was the key that resurrected the South. And then in 1890, with the passage of Plessy versus Ferguson, the separate but equal doctrine in every state, in every border state where they had put the white institutions, they put an African American, which served the same purpose of resurrecting the economy, the education, the quality of life of African Americans. And so it is with great honor that we welcome back to Congress the African American college presidents who came before us 7 years ago to start us on this journey of being able to get scholarships for the 1890s African American colleges and universities. And I'm so thankful for that, for I am a graduate of one of those 1890s, Florida A&M University, my beloved FAMU, home of the Rattlers. But let me tell you, there are so many of our members from Congress who are also graduates. And they join me in saying, without these 1890 land-grant colleges and universities, it is very doubtful that we, as African-American members of Congress, would be here. We owe so much to them. So that's why this is so important. And my wife, Alfreda, is a graduate. My two daughters, Dania and Marcy, are graduates of Florida A&M as well. So this is like homecoming to all of us. So again, it is with great pleasure that we do this. And I just want to close my opening statement by saying we're not stopping here. The fundamental purpose of this hearing is to hear from our African American college presidents on the work that we are doing in Congress, how it's helping to sustain and grow our African American land-grant colleges and universities. And it is with this hearing that we will lay the foundation for making the scholarship program permanent. And we are working as a committee right now on the legislation to do just that. So God bless all of you for coming. Thank you. And with that, I recognize my distinguished good friend, the ranking member Thompson, for your opening remarks.
Well, good morning. Thank you, Chairman Scott, for holding this hearing today. Now, before I begin, just a point of personal privilege, if I may. I'm very much looking forward and appreciate today's hearing and the topic that we'll be working on and exploring. But again, I want to make clear that I hope that this committee will then soon turn its attention to the needs of production agriculture, including hearing the testimony from our USDA Secretary Vilsack. The next Farm Bill will be here before we know it, and it's imperative that we address the 2018 Farm Bill oversight, each of those titles, as well as the challenges and successes associated with both the congressional and the departmental response to COVID-19. Now, I want to thank you for your indulgence, Chairman Scott. Now on to the hearing at hand. First, my thanks to our witnesses for their time and their attention today. I hope we can soon be gathering in person. I have to tell you, it feels good to be sitting next to my good friend, colleague, and Chairman Scott here.
Got it.
First time in a while.
In a while.
So at the end of last year, the Subcommittee on Biotechnology, Horticulture, and Research met to celebrate an important milestone, the 130th anniversary of the Second Morrill Act.
Yes.
And this act, which was signed into law on August 30th, 1890, led to the creation of these great 1890 land-grant universities, a part of that land-grant university system. Now, that hearing included a distinguished panel of witnesses, including two of them that joined us here today. And as many recall, we discussed the current state of the 1890 land-grant universities, how COVID-19 pandemic impacted their operations, and the status of various 2018 Farm Bill provisions, particularly those intended to enable the entire land-grant university system to focus and assist socially disadvantaged individuals. The programs that focus the entire system, 1862s, 1890s, 1894s, on the issues affecting socially disadvantaged individuals, allow us to implement a national response. And I look forward to continuing our discussion today. Land-grant universities conduct critical agricultural research. They teach our next generation of agriculturalists, and they provide outreach to their communities through the Cooperative Extension Service. Since their creation 1890 institutions have gone above and beyond to achieve these objectives, and I'm eager to hear more about each of these today. Congress has long supported and taken action since the passage of the Second Morale Act to ensure 1890 institutions have access to the resources they need. And I would be especially remiss if I did not mention the work that we did together in the 2018 Farm Bill. First and foremost, I'd like to highlight the grant program to award scholarships to students at 1890 universities who are pursuing a career in agriculture. This provision was a priority for several members of the committee, and we worked hard to include it in both the House-passed version and the final conference report. Now, I expect COVID-19 may have impacted the implementation of these scholarships, but I invite our guests to discuss how best to move forward. The two other provisions in the 2018 Farm Bill address the disparity in the treatment of carryover funds for 1890 extension and the establishment of 3 new centers of excellence. As we approach the next Farm Bill, I look forward to not only hearing more about the implementation of these provisions, but also where we may need additional support for these great institutions. Today, especially as we look towards a post-pandemic economy, any conversation about education must also include the issue of connectivity. Now, this is an issue I'm working on extensively to move the needle and close this gap, especially for our rural communities. And I know Chairman Scott and all of our members share this priority. Mm-hmm. Many of you educate our next generation of agriculture experts in very rural areas. Your students are more likely to end up on the wrong side of the digital divide. And I'm sure you have seen the frustration and the toll that this lack of reliable internet access has on your faculty and students. Lack of broadband also negatively affects the land-grant university system itself. Given the cooperative extension system's need to disseminate the latest research and provide other services. Now, I'm a strong believer in common sense legislation that will help bridge this gap, revitalize rural economies and production agriculture, and make sure our students are not left behind. I know infrastructure needs are top of mind for the entire land-grant university system, including all of you. And I look forward to hearing more about your needs and how we can best go about addressing them. We need the system. We need your institutions. We need all students to thrive. Mr. Chairman, I think today is an opportunity for us. We have before us the very administrators that are molding the minds of the next generation of farmers and ranchers and policymakers. Their expertise, recommendations, and engagement will serve as a necessary guide to make our institutions the most innovative and the most attractive to future generations of students. And I thank the outstanding panel of witnesses for taking time to be here with us today, and I'm confident that this will be a very productive discussion. Yeah. And with that, I yield back.
Thank you very much, Ranking Member. And now it is my deep honor to yield to the gentlewoman from North Carolina, the distinguished Vice Chair of the Agriculture Committee, and she is the co-chair of the Congressional Bipartisan Historically Black College and Universities HBCU Caucus, Representative Alma Adams, who is also a graduate of an 1890 institution, North Carolina A&T, and she will provide an opening statement as well as introduce a video from the leaders of the 1890s land-grant institutions.
Thank you, Chairman Scott and Ranking Member Thompson, for hosting today's hearing, and thank you to our witnesses for their testimony, and let me just greet you all with a good old Aggie pride. As you know, 1890 land-grant universities are some of our largest and most impactful historically Black colleges and universities, and this hearing makes that clear. For more than 125 years, 1890s have provided essential research, education, public outreach, and economic development opportunities across our country. And yet these institutions still face major issues regarding state matching funds and insufficient infrastructure on campus to conduct cutting-edge agricultural research. As Vice Chair of this committee, it's a priority of mine to make sure that these institutions continue to have the resources to unlock the potential of millions of students across the country. And moreover, as founder and co-chair of the HBCU Caucus, I recently introduced the Ignite HBCU Excellence Act. This bill would invest in our HBCU facilities to give students state-of-the-art learning environments and enable HBCUs to continue to be a critical source of diversity in the workforce for another century and beyond. I look forward to hearing the testimony from our esteemed panel of witnesses on these issues and others, and I thank them in advance for taking the time to be with us this morning and for all that they're doing for students. And so I hope that we get to hear your thoughts on the effectiveness of the implementation of the 2018 Farm Bill provisions, the additional areas for collaboration between Congress and the 1890 system, and how your institutions have been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. And before I close, Mr. Chair, I'd like to just take a moment to introduce a short video of our 1890 land-grant university presidents who would like to say a few words and introduce their universities. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I yield back at this time.
Thank you.
Greetings. I am Felicia M. Nave, president of Alcorn State University, the nation's oldest public historically Black land-grant institution. This year, we celebrate 150 years of academic excellence, and I want to thank you, Chairman Scott, and all the members for your steadfast commitment to the 1890 universities. For a century and a half, Alcorn State University has been a beacon of hope and opportunity, a place where all people are encouraged to dream and grow without limitations. We appreciate the Congress's ongoing partnership with our universities and look forward to future collaboration.
I am Larry Robinson, president of Florida A&M University, the alma mater of Chairman Scott. We appreciate the congressional partnerships with our universities, and we look forward to future collaborations. Chairman Scott's 2018 Farm Bill amendment authorized an additional $19 million for funding annually for the 1890 land-grant institutions, $14.3 million of which was used to establish a student fellowship program. As of May the 31st, 2021, our agriculture program has supported 92 students, with our closest competitor supporting 76. Finally, FAMU has a vested interest, for our name is indeed Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, with an emphasis on agriculture. Thank you.
Hi, I'm James E. Clark, the 12th president of South Carolina State University, the 1890 land-grant institution in this state, a place that focuses on small and minority farmers in our outreach to them. We focus on research that helps build healthier lives, better crops, and better standards of living. I would like to thank Chairman Scott and the other members of Congress for the American Recovery Plan, as well as the Farm Bill of 2018 that helps make it all possible.
Hello, I am Andrew Hugani Jr., president of Alabama Agricultural and Mechanical University, the largest HBCU in the state of Alabama. On behalf of our faculty, staff, students, and alumni, I want to thank you, Chairman Scott, and all of the members for your commitment to the 1890 universities. The investments in the 2018 Farm Bill and the American Recovery Plan have been critical to our maintaining our first-class academic and research programs and keeping our universities open. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dr. John B. Mosley, president of Lincoln University. As an 1890 land-grant institution, we are grateful to Congress for their ongoing support of our Hemp Institute, food safety projects, our 3 research farms, and all the extension and research work that furthers this very important mission. We look forward to continuing our part in growing the future of agriculture on our campus.
Greetings, I'm Lawrence Alexander, Chancellor of the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. On behalf of our faculty, staff, students, and alumni, we would like to thank you, Chairman Scott, and the members of the House Agriculture Committee for your generous support of our 1890 land-grant universities. Because of your support, we at UAPB are able to grow the next generation of agricultural engineers and leaders while continuing our role as national leaders in research in aquaculture, sweet potato, rice, and biotechnology.
Good morning. I am Heidi Anderson, the 16th president of the University of Maryland Eastern Shore, UMES. UMES is a Carnegie Doctoral II research university. And on behalf of all of our stakeholders, I am pleased to be here to express our deepest gratitude to you, Chairman Scott, and the members for all of your commitments to the 1890 universities. I want to thank you for the opportunity to testify today and for all of your support.
Hello, I'm President Glenda Glover from Tennessee State University. Thank you, Chairman Scott, and all of the members for convening today's hearing with the 1890 universities and for your commitment to the universities. The investments in the 2018 Farm Bill and the American Recovery Plan have been critical to our successes. At Tennessee State, we appreciate this collaboration as we continue to enhance our agricultural focus. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jack Thomas, President of Central State University. On behalf of our faculty, staff, students, and alumni, thank you, Chairman Scott, and all of the members for your continued support and commitment to the 1890 land-grant universities. We're proud of the work that our students and faculty are doing around sustainable agriculture. Your support has particularly helped us to expand our efforts in stopping the decline in pollinators and expanding hemp research. We appreciate our meaningful partnership with Congress and look forward to future collaborations.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairman Scott, for convening this hearing on the 1890s. I am Makola Abdullah, President of Virginia State University, and I want you to know that we appreciate Congress's partnership with all of our institutions, and we look forward to future collaborations. We are particularly proud of our small farm outreach program and the impact that our program has on small farmers here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Again, thank you so much for having us.
Hello, I'm President Paul Jones of Fort Valley State University in Fort Valley, Georgia. On behalf of the entire Fort Valley State University community, I want to thank you, Chairman Scott, and all of the members for your strong commitment to the 1890 land grant community. Your support of the 2018 Farm Bill and the American Rescue Recovery Plan has been critical in helping us build tremendous capacity while significantly growing our agricultural enrollment at Fort Valley State by more than 22%. And for that, we thank you tremendously and look forward to working with you going forward.
Greetings from Northern Agricultural and Technical State University. I am Harold L. Martin Sr., Chancellor of the University, and want to thank each of you, Chair Scott, Vice Chair Adams, and all members of the House Agriculture Committee for your incredible support of the 1890 land grant institutions. Your investments through the Farm Bill of 2018, which was made a critical investment in all land grant institutions, and in particular 1890 land grant institutions. So the return on this investment is critical to our university and other land grant institutions as well. So on behalf of all 1890 land grant institutions, thank you for your continuing support and investments in our university.
Greetings. I'm Ray Belton, Chancellor of Southern University and A&M College and President of the Southern University System, the only HBCU system in the nation. On behalf of the students, faculty, staff, alumni, and our communities, I would like to thank Chairman Scott and members of Congress for your support of our 1890 universities. The investments in agriculture, scholarships, and more have been critical for us as we maintain our first-class academic programs and community outreach. We are honored to be named as one of 4 centers of excellence where we will address diet-related health disparities in African Americans through nutrition research, teaching, and extension. Again, thank you for your commitment to our institutions and to our great nation.
Hi, I'm Tony Allen, President of Delaware State University. I'd like to thank Chairman Scott, members of the committee, and all the staff for organizing these hearings to listen to the accomplishments of and the challenges faced by some of the most consequential institutions in the country, the 1890 land grant HBCUs. Thanks to your support in legislation like the Farm Bill and the American Rescue Plan, we've been able to establish an innovative interdisciplinary STEM doctorate to meet the needs of today's ag-related research. We've awarded dozens of 1890 scholarships to talented young people, and our research activities continue without pause throughout the pandemic. Thank you for your continued support. It all matters.
Greetings from Tuskegee University, the home of Booker T. Washington, George Washington Carver, Thomas Monroe Campbell, the first extension demonstration agent, and the Tuskegee Airmen. I am Charlotte P. Morris, and I have the pleasure of serving as interim president of Tuskegee University. The scholarship funding you provided has allowed students to attend college and pursue their dreams of becoming scientists, veterinarians, agribusiness professionals, educators, and entrepreneurs who will enhance our food, agricultural, and environmental systems and facilitate prosperity in our rural and urban communities. Your support makes all the people of our nation healthier and makes our nation stronger. Thank you for your support.
Hello, I am Dr. Nicole Pride, President of West Virginia State University. Good morning, members of the House Agriculture Committee. I want to thank you all for convening today's hearing with my fellow presidents of the 1890 universities. At West Virginia State University, we are investing the resources you provide to train the next generation of agricultural leaders in farming, business, and the extension work necessary to help our state and country meet the challenges and opportunities of the 21st century. We need your continued help as we come out of the pandemic to provide better healthcare and broadband infrastructure to the communities we serve. Thank you for your partnership, and I look forward to future collaboration. Your commitment to the 1890 land-grant universities is a critical part of our success.
Scott and members of Congress, my name is Ruth Simmons. I'm president of Prairie View A&M University. On behalf of our faculty, staff, students, and of course our alumni, I bring you greetings from what we call affectionately the Hill. Thank you for your commitment to our 1890 land-grant universities and for supporting the development of the USDA 1890 National Scholars Program. Through this scholarship, it is our hope that the recipients will utilize the education they receive from this university to increase food security, address food deserts, and conduct community outreach through programs like the Healthy Houston Initiative, a new program that we launched, which addresses health and food disparities in local communities. We greatly appreciate Congress's partnership with our universities, and we look forward to future collaborations. Thank you again.
Thank you all for those wonderful statements and testimonies. The chair would, excuse me, the chair would request that other members submit their opening statements for the record so witnesses may begin their testimony and to ensure that there is ample time for questions. And if there is no objection, I would like to enter the letters from the president of Kentucky State University and the chancellor from the University of Arkansas Pine Bluff into the record. And now I am pleased to welcome back to the committee our very first witness, Dr. Macaulay Abdullah, who is the 14th president of Virginia State University. Dr. Abdullah has served in this role since February 2016 and he is an alumnus of Howard University and Northwestern University. And I am also pleased to also welcome back to the committee our second witness, Dr. Paul Jones, who is currently serving as the 10th president of Fort Valley State University. Dr. Jones has served in this position since December 2015, and he is a graduate of Utah State University and Colorado State University. Our third witness today is Dr. Heidi Anderson, and she is the president of the University of Maryland Eastern Shore. Dr. Anderson has served in this role since 2018. She has received her doctorate, master's, and undergraduate degrees, all from Purdue University. Our next witness is Dr. Tony Allen, the president of Delaware State University. Dr. Allen has served in this role since January of 2020, and he is an alumnus of Baruch College and University in Delaware. To introduce our fifth and final witness, I'm pleased to yield to our colleague on the Agriculture Committee, the distinguished gentlewoman from Louisiana, Miss Ledlow.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Thompson, and my fellow members of the House Agriculture Committee. It's an honor and privilege to introduce to you our next witness from my home state of Louisiana, Dr. Orlando McMeans. Dr. McMeans is both Chancellor of the Southern University Agricultural Research and Extension Center and the Dean of the College of Agricultural Family and Consumer Sciences at Southern University's main campus in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. The Southern University system plays an important role in furthering the land-grant mission in Louisiana. The Ag Center is critical in conducting important research, along with their outreach and leadership benefiting farmers and ranchers in 34 parishes. Southern University's College of Agricultural, Family, and Consumer Sciences produces outstanding graduates in fields such as ag, economics, plant and animal sciences, and urban forestry. Prior to joining Southern University, Dr. McMeans served in a number of key roles, including Vice President for Research and Public Service at West Virginia State University. His expertise and leadership in agricultural education and outreach has been recognized by his colleagues across the country, and he provides input to so many institutions outside of Louisiana through his work with the Association of Public Land Grant Universities. A graduate of an 1890 institution, Dr. McMeans earned his Bachelor of Science in Horticulture from Alabama A&M University. Additionally, he received both his master's degree and PhD in horticulture from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. After graduation, Dr. McMeans went on to do postdoctoral studies in the area of genetic engineering at Virginia Tech. We are delighted to have him with us today to share his perspective with the committee. Dr. McMeans, thank you for joining us. I yield back.
I thank you, gentlewoman. And I am indeed so pleased to have such a distinguished panel of witnesses before us today. Each of you will have 5 minutes in order to make your points. The timer should be visible to you on your screen and will count down to 0, at which point your time will have expired. So let us begin. Dr. Abdullah, you are recognized for 5 minutes. Please begin when you are ready.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairman David Scott. Thank you, Vice Chair Alma Adams and Ranking Member Glenn Thompson for convening today's hearing for the 1890 universities. I also want to thank all of the staff on both sides who helped put this together, and also my fellow presidents for the wonderful videos that they showed earlier. I am Dr. Makola Abdullah, President of Virginia State University and Chair of the APLU Council of 1890 University Presidents. On behalf of the faculty, the students, the alums, and the communities of the universities that we serve, I want to thank all of you for the investments to the 1890s in the 2018 Farm Bill and in the American Recovery Act. They have been critical in allowing us to grow our academic programs, conduct important agricultural research, and extend our university-based knowledge beyond our campus walls so that our communities can prosper and grow. I'm going to try to share my screen now and see how that works. And maybe it doesn't. So I'm going to keep going. In particular, I'd like to recognize and applaud the support of Congress, and especially you, Representative Scott, for your vision and leadership for the new 1890 Scholarship Program. This program has allowed us to recruit and retain the next generation of agricultural leaders who will continue to keep our food supply chain safe, affordable, and a positive contributor to our university's GDP growth. The scholarship program has allowed students like Sherrod Archie to complete his freshman year at Virginia State University this year as an ag, business, and econ major. Sherrod is a first-generation college student from a single-parent family where his mother worked 3 jobs to provide for her 4 sons, her aging parents, and a handicapped brother. According to Sherrod, the 1890 Scholarship Program, and I'm quoting here, is a chance to pursue my passions and improve my way of life in ways that I never thought possible. Of course, launching this program during a pandemic was not easy. Sherrod was one of 17 students last year to receive a full scholarship at Virginia State University through the program. And we hope to significantly increase that number in future years when students can enjoy coming back to campus. We also hope that in the next Farm Bill will include language to continue this scholarship opportunity for students like Sherrod. I also want to thank and applaud Vice Chair Alma Adams for her efforts to invest in our HBCU facilities and capital infrastructure through the introduction of the Ignite HBCU Excellence Act. These investments will allow our institutions to provide students with state-of-the-art learning environments and enable HBCUs to continue to be a critical source of diversity for the workforce. And I'd be remiss if I didn't applaud the Congresswoman and other members of the Education and Labor Committee, and really all members of Congress, for the work that you did on the loan forgiveness for the Capital Finance Program last session. Thank you very much. 1890 land-grant universities like my own, Virginia State University, serve as our state's leader in providing socially disadvantaged farmers, in supporting socially disadvantaged farmers and ranchers. Earlier this month, we were honored to host Congresswoman Spanberger and our very own former College of Agriculture Dean, Jewel Bernal, in her new role as USDA Deputy Secretary. She addressed the details of the $4 billion program for redressing the decades of USDA loan discrimination against Black and other socially disadvantaged farmers. This listening session and town hall represents the partnerships that the 1890s have with the USDA and is just one of the many ways we work together to assist Black and socially disadvantaged farmers and ranchers. And we are at a critical moment to do more with your help. I encourage Congress to support robust funding increases for the 1890 land grant program so that we can make even more positive impacts for our country's citizens through our academic, research, and cooperative extension programs. For example, by increasing the number of 1890 Centers of Excellence from our current 6, we will better be able to increase rural prosperity for underserved farming communities, address critical needs for enhanced international training and development, and increase the diversity of students in STEM fields. Additionally, we encourage your support to address the healthcare infrastructure that COVID-19 has demonstrated that we don't have in place for our students on our campuses, as well as the digital infrastructure we need to deliver assistance to individuals, families, and communities during and after the pandemic. In closing, I ask that you continue to invest in America's future by investing in 1890 land-grant universities. We have a 131-year track record of providing a strong return on investment for every federal dollar that has supported our programs, and I can assure you that trend will only continue. I look forward to covering many other areas in our question and answer session today, like our ongoing challenges with state matching grants and what Congress can do to help. Thank you all so much.
And thank you, Dr. Abdullah, for your excellent presentation. Dr. Jones, you are now recognized. Please begin when you are ready.
Thank you, Chairman Scott, Ranking Member Thompson, and members of the House Committee on Agriculture. My name is Paul Jones, and I have the privilege of serving as the 10th president of Fort Valley State University. First, I want to thank you for your leadership during these unprecedented times The support of Congress has provided for higher education, including 1890 land-grant institutions, minority-serving institutions, and historically Black colleges and universities, which has been instrumental in undergirding our students financially and ensuring our faculty and staff and our students have remained safe. We all know that COVID-19 has presented many challenges over these past 15 months. But we also have discovered several opportunities for investment and innovation that will enhance the experience of our students and change our approach to higher education for what we believe is the better. It is an honor to be here along with my colleagues to testify and continue support for funding of the scholarship program for men and women who aspire to serve our country by pursuing careers in the agricultural fields. Along with USDA, the 1890 land grant system has monumental responsibilities of addressing global food security through rigorous research, extension, and educational programs. Technological advances applicable in agricultural, natural resource utilization and conservation, and food production will enable us to meet this daunting challenge, provided there is an appropriate workforce. This new 1890 scholarship program created in the 2018 Farm Bill helps us to develop a highly skilled workforce. And I'm pleased to report that we have seen significant enrollment increases during this past year. Fort Valley State University awarded 76 scholars this past year, which resulted in a 22% increase in our undergraduate enrollment in the College of Agriculture. We firmly believe that had it not been for the COVID-19 pandemic and perhaps our students' reluctance to being on campus, we would have seen even larger enrollments in these agricultural fields. Given our success and the report released by NIFA and Purdue, I believe the future is bright. I also believe that this scholarship program will continue to bear fruit by consistently producing 1890 graduates who are well prepared to tackle some of the pressing challenges in agriculture and food production facing our world today. Furthermore, this program will allow students not to be saddled with student loan debt, which is a major crisis today, particularly among students of color. And I have no doubt that the number of graduates that 1890 institutions produce in agricultural related disciplines will tremendously increase with an increasing number of scholarships awarded. A major issue of concern to all public institutions receiving support for food, agriculture, and natural resource research is aging infrastructure and the lack of funding for maintenance, maintaining facilities. We are so thankful that in the president's budget to see the funding for HBCUs for infrastructure, as well as the Ignite HBCU Excellence Act, which was introduced by Congresswoman Alma Adams, Senator Tim Scott, Senator Chris Coons, and Representative French Hill. This bipartisan piece of legislation would be transformational in modernizing our campus and state-of-the-art learning environments. I am so grateful for this opportunity to address you today. And on behalf of all of our faculty, our staff, our students, our alumni, and throughout our 1890 system, I thank you for your continuous support for our institution and your advocacy. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Dr. Jones. And now we will hear from Dr. Anderson. Please begin when you are ready, Doctor.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Scott, Vice Chair Adams, and Ranking Member Thompson. Again, I'm Heidi Anderson, the 16th President of the University of Maryland Eastern Shore, UMES. And I am proud to bring you, an honor to bring you greetings, but also to bring you thanks, many thanks, from our faculty, staff, students, alumni, and individuals at our university. We want to thank you for your unwavering support for higher education. We appreciate all of the federal funding that we have received throughout the year through the stimulus plans and the stimulus bills, but also the 2018 Farm Bill, the 1890 scholarships, and the 1890 Centers of Excellence. And of course, Representative Alma Adams, we appreciate the IGNITE Act that you have proposed. This proposed infrastructure legislative bill is a game changer for all of our HBCUs and for the students who are coming to our schools in the future. Our university relentlessly continues to embrace and advance our land-grant mission as a Carnegie II doctoral research university. In addition to providing programs and academic programs in science and STEM, we actually also have extension education to our community. And it cannot be overemphasized that the 1890 universities like UMES have a pivotal role that we have to uphold. Chairman Scott and members of the committee, I extend gratitude for all of the support you gave us for the 1890 scholarships. And we are also grateful for the 2018 Farm Bill. In the spring of 2020, like everyone else in the country, we had to pivot, as you know, because of the pandemic. But our university, we were fortunate in August of 2020 to bring students back to the campus early, and we were able to complete a full academic year very safely under safe conditions. And at the same time, we adapted our research and our extension programming to continue serving our clientele, the farmers in our state and in our region. Our extension team continued to work, and they also worked with our local community to build trust in the COVID vaccines. As part of our community outreach, we worked with our Somerset County Public Health Department, also giving vaccinations to the community. We have 8 health profession programs here on the campus that work with our School of Agriculture, and our students in those programs gave vaccines to the community. In many rural settings, and especially in minority settings, as you know, there is also a shortage of healthcare providers. UMES is currently working hand in hand with our School of Agriculture and our students in all of these health profession programs to extend the healthcare in these critical areas. In closing, UMES, and indeed all of the 1890 universities, are highly committed to finding more innovative ways to continue serving the promise of the land grant mission. And we also are looking for ways to serve the needs of our disadvantaged citizens who are in all of our states and all of our rural areas. I strongly believe that the continued strategic investment that you have given so far in the 1890s, and of course increasing that, it will ensure that our universities can make meaningful impacts across the nation. I could urge you to continue giving us the support for our students, but also for our infrastructure. And I appreciate the opportunity to provide this testimony to you today and also to be here to answer any questions. Thank you again for all of your support.
Ending testimony, Dr. Anderson. And now, Dr. Allen, please begin when you are ready.
Good morning. I'm Tony Allen, president of Delaware State University, and I'd like to thank Chairman Scott, Vice Chairwoman Adams, Ranking Member Thompson, and all the members of the House Agricultural Committee and the committee staff for inviting us here today. There is literally no doubt that the U.S. Department of Agriculture, especially the National Institute of Food and Agriculture and the 1890 Land Grant Program, are the strong foundation upon which our institutions thrive. It's because of our long-running partnership that we continue to have an impact on our students, our communities, and our nation. At Delaware State University, where we aspire to become one of the nation's first HBCUs to reach R1 research status, we know we can't do it without you. I'd further acknowledge the tremendous support, both past and proposed, from other federal programs and legislation upon which so many of you on both sides of the aisle have worked. The Farm Bill, the Flight Act, the CARES Act, the American Recovery Plan, and Representative Adams' proposed Ignite Act are all exceptional examples of your commitment. Thank you for your continued support. Delaware State University and the other 1890 land-grant institutions have successfully weathered the storm of COVID-19. In our case, we were able to collaborate with Testing for America last summer to perform over 75,000 COVID tests, allowing us to bring our student body back to campus safely during the last school year with a positivity rate of less than 0.5%. Among these students were our first 43 recipients of the 1890 scholarships that you authorized in the 2018 Farm Bill. We were also able to avoid pausing our aggressive research agenda by applying more thorough safety protocols. As a result, instead of retrenching, our overall research portfolio actually grew by 17% in fiscal 21, including the construction of the first in-state COVID testing laboratory in Delaware. I should note our gratitude for receiving a USDA AFRI COVID-19 rapid response grant here. My extended remarks will cover more thoroughly the ways in which we and the other 1890 land-grant institutions apply and leverage the resources you've provided. But I want to emphasize our continuing work of economically sustainable agriculture in a changing climate. In Delaware, we live with this reality every day. From the impacts of Atlantic storms to the increasing soil acidification, we are deeply involved not only in research on crop and livestock diversification, but also in pioneering new business models and workforce development. Thanks in no small measure to your support, a biomass research team led by Delaware State University researchers has submitted a patent for developing the novel enzyme which releases more than 200% more fermentable sugars during pre-treatment of bioenergy feedstock. Other 1890 institutions are doing similarly groundbreaking work at preparing our nation's farmers and for food producers to keep meeting America's food requirements in changing times. I remain constantly aware, as my 1890 colleagues do, that strong bipartisan leadership in agriculture, and especially in this committee, is critical to our continued success in educating new professionals, training our workforce, conducting the research necessary for long-term sustainability, and maintaining the primacy of American agriculture in the marketplace of an increasingly smaller, interconnected world. We simply could not do it without you, and we remain grateful for your continued support. As we often say, our students don't just come here for a quality educational experience. They are trying to change the economic trajectory for themselves, their families, and their communities. That's why we need your support and are honored to be with you today. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Dr. Allen, for your excellent report. Now, Dr. McMeans, your 5 minutes are to start whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chairman Scott. And good morning to Chairman Scott, Vice Chair Alma Adams, Ranking Member Thompson, as well as Research Subcommittee Chair Stacy Plaskett, and members of the committee, as well as the Council of 1890 Presidents and Chancellors, and the entire 1890 land grant community. I would like to thank you for this opportunity to testify before you, the House Ag Committee, and also share my thoughts on the topic, 1890 land grant institutions, investing for agricultural resiliency, equity, and global impact. I am Orlando McMeans, and I am the Chancellor of the Southern University Agricultural Research and Extension Center and Dean of the College of Agricultural, Family, and Consumer Sciences here at the Southern University. The second Morale Act, I always like to say, was one of necessity. That is, the establishment, or in some cases, designation of these historically Black land grant institutions was done so because Black Americans at that time did not have access to majority institutions of higher education who focused primarily on food, agriculture, the mechanical arts and science, and military tactics. The Morale Act of 1890 gave rise to these historically Black land-grant institutions, and they are collectively and commonly referred to as 1890 institutions or the 1890s. Let me just say from the first that I am a proud product of an 1890 land-grant institution. Alabama A&M University in Normal, Alabama, or as we call it, and I heard it earlier, the Hill. As a horticulture major at Alabama A&M in the College of Agriculture, I gained a solid educational foundation. That degree catapulted me to attain my MS and PhD from the University of Illinois, a postdoc at Virginia Tech, and a 21-year career at West Virginia State University, also an 1890 land-grant institution. I owe Alabama A&M a debt of gratitude for providing me with a foundation which yielded these outstanding experiences. All of the universities that I have been affiliated with have all been land-grant institutions. So it's given me a unique perspective on the topic at hand. First, I had a chance to sit in several seats from a student to a chancellor, including experiment station director, extension director, and everything in between, also a faculty member. I saw all facets of the 1890 Academy, but also saw the challenges of the 1890s. At the same time, I always observe our resiliency. The 1890s collectively have been well documented as it relates to our priorities, but in most cases, they stem from issues associated with inequity of funding and funding disparity relevant to our 1862 counterparts. One major issue that's been spoken about is the inadequate facilities and infrastructures due to insufficient funding and years of not addressing those infrastructural needs. In particular, many of our research facilities are outdated and in disrepair. I want to acknowledge Congresswoman Alma Adams for her leadership in seeking to address some of these infrastructure issues on the campuses of historically Black colleges and universities. Also, the Association of Public and Land-Grant Universities, or APLU, is proposing to establish an agriculture and food infrastructure grant program, which was proposed to be funded at least $11.5 billion. This number did not come out of the sky. It was one that was done in a research study that assessed all of the research infrastructure and research facilities at all of the land-grant institutions. And so we're hoping that this gains some ground, hopefully in some bill coming up. Also, another vehicle to address infrastructure and facility issues is to target the 2023 Farm Bill, specifically proposing to increase the authorization level for USDA's 1890 facilities programs. In order to continue and develop and implement cutting-edge applied research programs and deliver impactful cooperative extension programs, we must continue to prioritize the 1890 extension and Evan Allen's research funding line. These capacity funds for the 1890s are core-based funding, and thus we continue to seek increases in these lines and also reauthorization under the next farm bills. HBCUs have historically developed and implemented research, outreach, and education programs to serve underserved and disadvantaged communities and citizens. What the pandemic has elucidated and exacerbated are those issues and disparities as it relates to infrastructure and access and health was actually disproportionately affected those communities that we serve. What this means is that 1890s are more relevant than ever. The 1890s have, as a consequence of the pandemic, developed comprehensive multidisciplinary educational outreach and research programs to address health and infrastructural disparities in the underserved communities and states and regions that the 1890s serve. All 1890s, and this was stated earlier, receive federal formula funds, but accompanying that is the one-to-one match or 100% match of our federal funds with state funds. Unfortunately, many of the 1890s continue to struggle with the one-to-one match and have fallen short. While all states are meeting those one-to-one match requirements where 1862s are represented. The majority of the 1890s still have that challenge, and thus we, in many cases, have to seek a waiver. I would like to pause and thank the Louisiana legislature just a week ago, who actually stepped up and actually gave us that 1-to-1 match. So I want to applaud them and thank them and the governor for that fact. The plight of Black farmers have been well documented, and many of you have read these articles over and over again. Over the last century, many Black farmers lost their land by tax sales, eminent domain, and voluntary sales. The number of Black farmers in America have peaked in 1920. And as a matter of fact, it was 950,000 in 1920. And approximately right now it's 45,500. And so we definitely, as 1890s, will work with President Biden and the American Rescue Plan to definitely try to address some of those issues. It has been historically our area to outreach and technically support those disadvantaged farmers. I also want to let you know that climate change is a priority also for the 1890s, and we will continue to seek to address those things related to climate change. The 1890 community, and I want to take time on this, and hopefully I won't go over my time, but I want to thank Congressman David Scott, whose vision was to establish scholarships for 1890s for students wanting to pursue baccalaureate degrees in food and agricultural sciences. And as a result of this, and you've heard this earlier, we have received numerous amounts of scholarship. This new scholarship rolled out in 2020, and the 1890s receiving $752,000 apiece. We awarded almost up to 800 scholarships totaling $11.5 million. And we are happy to say that a number of these were given to Southern students who will benefit from this. And the most amazing thing about this is a scholarship that would not have been available if it would not for the 2018 Farm Bill. So we are looking for your support in reauthorizing this vital and essential educational and academic program. As I close, I would like to say it is projected that the world will reach a population of 10 billion by 2050. We have to feed these people. And I think that an investment in all of the aforementioned agricultural programs that are being served or delivered at 1890 institutions via Congress and USDA will not only be an investment in 1890s, but an investment in food security and sustainability of the U.S. as well as globally. Again, thank you to the House Ag Committee, specifically the Research Committee, for the opportunity to testify here today. We look forward to working with you as we move forward to the reauthorization of the 2023 Farm Bill. We urge you to use this moment, this opportunity, to invest in our 1890 University, to invest in the future of our communities, and to invest in the people we serve. Thank you.
And thank you for your excellent testimony. And I want to thank all our witnesses and for your excellent testimony, all of our distinguished presidents of the 1890 land grant African American colleges and universities. Thank you very much. Now, at this time, members will be recognized for questions in order of seniority, alternating between majority and minority members. You'll be recognized for 5 minutes each in order to allow us to get in everyone that is on our list. And I show it so everybody will know we got quite a few people that want to participate. So we want to be cognizant of our 5 minutes. And please keep your microphones muted until you are recognized in order to minimize background noise. Now let me start, if I may, with my 5 minutes of opening questions. Let me just ask each of you very quickly. It's so important that you express, each of you, just how impactful and beneficial the scholarship program is. I want to be able to get that on the record. We are moving, as I said, to make this scholarship program permanent. And in order to do that, we want to make sure we have the evidence to present. We have an extraordinarily talented agriculture committee. All of us are working on this, but we've got to take it to the full House, and then we have to take it to the Senate. And I can tell you this, I had a wonderful conversation yesterday with my good friend on the Republican side, Senator Grassley, who helped us with the other program, ranking member. And so we're looking forward to that. And as I mentioned, it's not just me with this agriculture, but all of us worked as a team. And we have some talented people who are anxious to help make this permanent. So I want to be able to get on the record all of what this scholarship program means to each of you. We have on our committee such distinguished persons, excuse me for this cold, persons who have worked with us. Our vice chair, Ms. Alma Adams, has been very helpful. We also have folks like Sanford Bishop, who is so key, my good colleague from down in Georgia, who is also the chairman of the Appropriations Subcommittee on Agriculture. I call Sanford my money man. Without him, we can't get the money. So we're all working, and we are anxious to move ahead. And I have my good buddy Austin Scott here, who is standing up strong, and he's asked already, is Fort Valley here? I said, yes, they are. He represents part of that area down there where Fort Valley is. So let me close my introduction here. If each of you could just very quickly, I don't want to take up much time. I may have time to come back at the end. But if each of you can tell us quickly why this scholarship program is so important to you, what it means to you, and why we need to make it permanent and go on. Let me start with Dr. McMeans. We'll start backwards. We'll work with you first. Very quickly, I only have 2 or 3 minutes left, but okay. Please, just quickly.
All right. Thank you, Chairman Scott. And the one thing that I always use a statement in saying is that this scholarship is a game changer. In your vision of looking at how we recruit individuals to go in the food and ag sciences career, more people are retiring in that area than we're graduating. And so we think it's a game changer here at the Southern University. And I'll just simply close with this because I know we don't have much time. To see a parent receive a scholarship that was not available or availed to their child a year ago, 2 years ago, and to see this parent break down in tears and saying, my son has received a scholarship in which if he keeps his part and does what he's supposed to do as it relates to requirements, he will go to school for 4 years free. That is something I wish was around when I was a student at Alabama A&M several years ago. And I just think it's so important. That's why my remarks and my hats off to you for being a visionary thinker in developing such a program, because it is changing not only these institutions, but it's changing our position globally as it relates to sustainability of the food and agricultural systems. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Dr. Jones, Fort Valley.
Thank you, Chairman Scott. Let me just say that, in Georgia, the number one industry is agriculture. And by our ability to invest in this way,
is having a tremendous impact on our institution, which will have tremendous impact on industry. As evidence from our increase in enrollment that I mentioned, that was more than 22%. The students are there. They just need opportunities and to help finance their education. And this scholarship has enabled that to take place. So we're excited about it. We are looking forward to increasing the number of partnerships that we have with industry. So as Chancellor McMean said, it is a game changer.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Anderson, very quickly, please.
We were able, with the funding, to actually bring 15 freshmen on the campus in fall of 2020 in the midst of COVID. And we're looking forward to, outside of COVID, bringing a lot more students. So we're already have enrolled 10 for this particular fall. But the thing I want to really say is these scholarships change the social mobility of these students for the future, because these students then are able to go forward and become working citizens in the country and contribute tremendously to going forward. Thank you again for the support.
Okay, thank you. I've gone a little over my time there, but maybe we'll get the responses from Dr. Allen and Dr. Abdullah as we move on. So with that, Ranking Member, I'll turn it over to you for your 5 minutes. Thank you.
All right, Chairman. Thank you, first of all, to all the members of the panel. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you so much for making a difference. Obviously, not just for on a broader scale for rural America, for agriculture, but specifically in the lives of in the lives that you touch, the students. Dr. McMeans, as you mentioned in your testimony, you're a product of an 1890 institution. You've been affiliated with 5 different universities that are all land-grant universities. Can you tell us more about your experience attending Alabama A&M University and how that motivated you to spend your career serving in a variety of positions to carry out the land-grant mission?
Thank you very much, Congressman Thompson. What was interesting is that prior to attending Alabama A&M, I was just, as a lot of us are as jocks, we were just interested in going to college to play football. But I was introduced to a book by George Washington Carver, which gave me interest in looking at plants. But the wonderful thing about Alabama A&M, and I know there are 18 other universities on this call that would say that it gave me that attention, that one-on-one interaction, which gave me a foundation in which I felt not only competent and competitive, but able to move on and pursue a career. And I understood more so the importance of agriculture. And I give so much thanks to Alabama A&M because it did give me the foundation and understanding. There are certain things. I was just having a conversation last night with some individuals. I said, well, we can do without cell phones. You can possibly even do without a car. You can do without a lot of luxuries in life, but we cannot do without food and agriculture. And that was taught to me at Alabama A&M. And that sounds so simple, but it's really as it relates to sustainability and the future of the global population. It is so imperative, and it made me competitive and also gave me the foundation to go on and be successful. So thank you very much.
No, thank you.
Dr. Abdullah?
Yeah, let's start with Dr. Abdullah, please.
Thank you very much, sir. When we talk about deferred maintenance, That's something that's really important here at Virginia State University, and how we would use additional dollars is to really make up for the fact that for many years our facilities did not receive the kind of funding for deferred maintenance that other schools got. And so when you talk about our facilities for teaching of our students, for making sure that our researchers have access to the kind of research equipment and the research labs that they need, that it's critical that we maintain the infrastructure to be able to do the work that we need to do. One of the real strong keys is that our 1890 land-grant institutions are an incredible investment. And I think we found, especially during this time of COVID, that we are in the communities where we can make the biggest kind of difference. And our ability to make that difference is directly related to our ability to have the equipment, to be able to have the deferred maintenance on our buildings, to be able to move our initiatives forward. And so thank you so much for asking that question. And I know Dr. Allen wants to get in, and so I'll make sure that he can have some of this time also.
Dr. Allen, please recognize you for response to that question on infrastructure.
Thank you, Congressman Thompson. It's an important question. The one thing I would say to you is that, and to the entire committee, is just to remember that only 3% of all colleges and universities are HBCUs, but we represent about 27% of all Black graduates in the STEM discipline. So we significantly punch above our weight, and I think that's important because we do that with resources that are disproportionate to many of our other sister institutions. So to invest in us is to give you a significantly greater return on that investment, particularly as it relates to educational access for all. Delaware State University, just for context, and this is probably similar to my colleagues, we have significant deferred maintenance issues, upwards of about $240 million. We've been able to retire some of that debt here recently, but it becomes very, very important for us to maintain our competitiveness and to make sure that our faculty, staff, and students have the facilities that make this not only a great place to work, but a great place to do research and make an impact on the communities we serve. It's also important to our research interests. So I think you all know that there are 3 classifications, Carnegie classifications for research status, R1, R2, and R3. And there are 11 HBCUs that are R2 status, but none are R1, which is the highest you can have. I know Congressman Adams knows this well through the IGNITE Act. If we're able to build up our infrastructure, particularly as it relates to our classrooms and our labs, it gives us significant import for one of our institutions, and hopefully more than one, to elevate to the R1 status. So there are lots of reasons as it relates to systemic inequities, but also the value of the return you get by investing in HBCUs and our infrastructure capacity.
Dr. Allen, thank you so much. My time has expired, so Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you very much, your ranking member. And now I recognize the distinguished lady from North Carolina, Ms. Adams. You are recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, again for your leadership, and to Ranking Member Thompson for hosting the hearing today, and for our witnesses. Throughout the years, I have visited several 1890 institutions and noticed the deterioration of older buildings and classrooms on campus. I mentioned that I served 40 years on a campus in Greensboro, North Carolina at Bennett College, and it was about, I think, the last 10 years of my tenure that I had air conditioning in my building. But I know that renovating and securing new buildings and equipment is necessary in order to meet the challenges and opportunities for the 21st century. And so this is the reason that I introduced the bipartisan legislation, the IGNITE HBCU Excellence Act, to help build and rebuild the infrastructure of our campuses. This legislation would make historic investments in these institutions to rectify over a century of systemic neglect. And Mr. Chairman, before I continue, I ask unanimous consent to insert 2 letters into the record, a letter from a chancellor that could not join us today, my chancellor, North Carolina A&T, Chancellor Harold Smith, and then also another letter supporting the IGNITE HBCU Excellence Act from several prominent companies.
Without objections, Congress lady, it's fine.
Thank you very much. So in terms of the questions that I'd like to ask, Congress is in the midst of debating an economic package, Dr. Jones, to rebuild our country's infrastructure. And in your testimony, you mentioned the major issue of concern to all public institutions receiving support for food, agriculture, and natural resource research is aging infrastructure and the lack of funding for maintaining facilities. So could you tell us what are the top priorities for infrastructure on your campus, and what are your deferred maintenance needs?
Thank you, Congresswoman Adams. We have significant challenges related to deferred maintenance, somewhere upwards about $40 million that we need to sort of get caught up in some of our aging facilities. We are a historic campus. Much of our campus sits in a historic quad. And as you can imagine, those facilities in particular probably have much greater challenges with infrastructure systems and mechanical systems, et cetera. So we have a tremendous need in upgrading those systems to preserve these incredible assets. In addition, we want to begin to update some of our laboratories and classrooms. You know, when you think about the significant increase or significant investment in the scholarship program, we want to make sure we have facilities that match these scholars, and at the same time providing tremendous facilities for our researchers as well, so they can do the important work that they come here for.
Thank you very much. Dr. Anderson, as you know, the 2018 Farm Bill authorized the Secretary of Agriculture to recognize at least 3 centers of excellence led by 1890 universities. And in May, USDA announced funding for these centers at the University of Maryland, Eastern Shore, Southern University, Tuskegee, and North Carolina A&T. So would you describe how you see these centers of excellence benefiting the entire 1890 system and the communities that you serve?
Congressman Adams for that question, Congresswoman Adams. Yes, with Centers of Excellence, we will be partnering with the other 1890 institutions. So all of us will work together in a collaborative fashion. This will allow us to actually enhance the research and the educational needs in all of our particular states, but also continue with the proper funding there. But I also want to add to the infrastructure question, because that's a critical with your Ignite Act. At our university, we have 88 buildings, which actually the average age of all of them is 44 years. So our deferred maintenance is over $90 million. At UMES, we are poised to be able to add a veterinary science program, a veterinary science school, but we need funding to make sure we change our buildings for that. I'll give you one real live example. When I came here in September of 2018, our library was closed because the roof had leaked so bad, and it was closed for 6 months because of all the damage that had happened with the rain. Imagine a university with no library for their students for 6 months. That's how bad our buildings are. And so I wanted to make sure I added that and say thank you very much for the Ignite Act.
Well, thank you. And Chairman, it looks like I'm out of time, but I'd like to just submit the questions that I have. I have one for Dr. Means and Dr. Abdullah as well. In terms of the 1-1 match. So I'm going to yield back. I know we have a lot of folks who have questions, but thank you all so much for your testimony and for your answers today.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. And now I recognize my distinguished colleague from Georgia, Mr. Austin Scott.
Thank you, Chairman. And I want to specifically apologize to Dr. Jones, who's from my area, and I had to slip out a little while ago because of an Armed Services Committee, and after the questions, I'll have to slip out again because of an Armed Services Committee hearing. But I want to, Dr. Jones, one, say hello, and two, bring Dr. Anderson into the conversation. Both of you mentioned that the rate of recruitment for students in agriculture has been on the rise, while you have not seen the rise in other majors. Dr. Jones, you specifically mentioned the scholarships, the 1890 scholarship program that my colleague David Scott, Chairman Scott, and several others worked very hard on, but I think you deserve a little extra credit there, if you will. From the the scholarships, but could you both speak to the rise in the recruitment of people for the agriculture programs?
I'll be happy to start. First of all, the scholarship funding was very instrumental in helping us increase the student recruitment in that area. But we also had other strategic initiatives that we did. But we actually work with our students in manners, and we have summer students that come on our campus in summer camps. Our agriculture students are already here. In fact, this past Sunday, I was visiting with them. We have 20 students who've joined us from various high schools across the state to participate in that program. So it's one of the ways that helped us really increase the enrollment. And that's why I know that we're going to increase it again significantly this particular fall, and urging you to continue with that funding. I'll yield to President Jones.
Great to see you, Representative
yes, sir.
Austin. I appreciate all of the support that you provide. In terms of the scholarship, we did, I think, an incredible job of bringing together many stakeholders at the institution to ensure that we had an aggressive plan in place. We looked at how we could, in some ways, rebrand ourselves in terms of helping students to better understand the tremendous opportunities available to them in these incredible agricultural fields. But that message, and our admissions team and several of our faculty were part of this process. And I think those efforts, we learned a lot from that process. And it's my hope that as we move forward in understanding the resources that are ahead of us, that we will be in an incredible position to continue to strengthen our recruitment efforts. And we're already seeing that as we look at the fall. I think that our challenge is going to be having more students than we have funding available as we move forward. So exciting effort, and we're really blessed with the enrollment results.
I look forward to hearing more about the deferred maintenance and other issues that we can help you with. You've done a pretty good job of creating partnerships with Georgia Power and Ford Motor Company at Fort Valley State University. Could you speak to the value of having the private sector partnerships and what that means for your graduates and their ability to literally walk from the diploma, from the receiving of the diploma straight into a job?
That's absolutely, and thank you for the question. That's essential, and again, an area that we are ensuring that we are putting greater efforts in. These partnerships with industry are so important. These recent partnerships with Ford and Chevron and our Air Force base here are monumental, and they are yielding great results. And without them, you can't bring these scholars to your campus without providing these kinds of opportunities to them. And so we are continuing to look at ways to partner. We're beginning to work with the poultry industry as well to look at ways where we can enhance these kinds of opportunities. So the efforts with industry are beginning to pay off tremendously, and I think those are essential as we move forward.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. My time's about to expire, but I think those partnerships between industry and the HBCUs is very valuable to our country. And it's not just about the education; it's about the opportunity that comes with the education. And so I look forward to seeing those partnerships continue to expand. And I yield the remainder of my time and appreciate all of you taking time to testify before us.
Thank you, Congressman Scott. And now I recognize the gentlelady from Virginia, Ms. Spanberger. 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And I am so pleased to have the chance to join you all today. And I'm especially excited that we have Dr. Abdullah here from Virginia State University. I think it's important that we're discussing our 1890 institutions and the valuable work that they do in advancing the next generation of agricultural innovation. And so I'd like to begin my question for you, Dr. Abdullah. You mentioned in your opening statement the long track record that VSU and other 1890 institutions have in providing a strong return on federal investments to the communities that you and your fellow presidents serve. But locally in Virginia, and I represent the district just next door to where Virginia State is located, in Virginia's 4th district. In Virginia and in Central Virginia, we are well aware of the robust course catalog, the strength of VSU, but I think focused on the actual scope of agricultural innovation is something that I know Central Virginians would love to hear more about. So could you expand, specific to Virginia, specific to our community, a little bit more on what federal investments in VSU and other 1890 institutions mean for our local communities, in particular Virginia's agriculture sector?
Well, thank you so much, Representative Spanberger. And I wanted you to know that I was trying to do a PowerPoint presentation earlier because one of the highlights was a picture of us here at Virginia State University. So thank you so much for your support of VSU. We are very proud of the work that we do in ag research, in our cooperative extension program, supporting the many socially disadvantaged and small farmers and ranchers here in Central Virginia. And you're absolutely right. There's so many in the Commonwealth of Virginia who really understand the quality of work that happens here at VSU and are recipients of the work that happens in and around all of our communities. And I think one of the things that makes me so excited is that, we have someone like you who's on the committee who really understands what we do at VSU. We have Representative David Scott and Representative Al Lawson, who I know are both graduates of Florida A&M University, who understand the 1890 land grant programs. And then to have Deputy Secretary of USDA, Jewel Bernal, at USDA now, means that we're going to be able to really get the word out more about the great work that we do. So I firmly believe that our institutions, our 1890 institutions, provide some of the best bang for the buck for the federal dollar in terms of helping, whether it's helping students here at VSU be able to chase the American dream, to come from their backgrounds to become productive citizens, and or to help socially disadvantaged farmers and ranchers to become an important part of our food ecosystem. And so we believe that our network of institutions, our infrastructure is built to be able to do any number of things and really support agriculture and to support this country. And we're really proud to be able to be here to share that with you. And so thank you so much for your question.
And Dr. Abdullah, for the Central Virginians who themselves may not be in the agricultural sector, which of course is a major driver of Virginia's economy, could you speak just a little bit more about the extension programs that VSU has and the advantage that gives to Virginia's farmers in the larger economy?
Yes.
A bit of a primer, if you would, in our time remaining about what those programs do.
We work very closely with Virginia Tech and Virginia's Cooperative Extension Program on initiatives that involve 4-H, our small farm outreach program, again led by Mr. Crutchfield, who's doing incredible work here at Virginia State, and other areas to make sure that we can impact young people and young at heart people who are either interested in ag business and the ag economy, or interested in learning more about agriculture. And so we're very excited about those programs. And Dr. Ray McKinney, who is our dean here of our College of Agriculture, also serves as our extension director, and he does wonderful work. And so I'm very proud of all of the work that all of our faculty and staff do here at VSU.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Certainly, having visited the campus multiple times and being aware of the tremendous work of extension programs, I thank you and the fellow presidents and witnesses on the line for the work that you all do. Certainly ensuring that when farmers and beginning farmers, socially disadvantaged farmers, somebody who wants to get back to the land and really begin that small business of farming, the work that you all do is so tremendous in helping them have success. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back, and I'm really grateful for the topic of this conversation today.
And thank you, Ms. Spanberger. And now I recognize for 5 minutes the gentleman from Indiana, Mr. Baird.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank the ranking member, both of you, for holding this meeting. And I really want to thank the witnesses for their contribution to the discussion here today. And you know, the contribution that the land-grant universities have done to improve the quality of life for our communities through education, research, and the Cooperative Extension Service has just been invaluable. And this has been particularly true for the agricultural industry. So I guess I want to start my questions with Dr. McMeans. Southern University is the home to the 1890 Center of Excellence for Nutrition, Health and Wellness, and the Quality of Life. So Dr. McMeans, can you tell or talk more about the work that Southern University is doing through the center to help address diet-related health diseases, as well as through nutrition research, teaching, and the Extension Service? Dr. McMeans?
Thank you, Congressman. Southern University, and in particular Southern University Agricultural Center, was fortunate enough to receive one of the Centers of Excellence as relates to USDA. And the focus of it really came out of the pandemic, I think, pretty much so. But we already knew as 1890s that the community we serve were disproportionately impacted by certain health disparities. And so what we did is we're partnering with North Carolina A&T as well as Tuskegee to look at those issues that are impacting. And one of the unique things about this program, some of the presenters talked about the fact that we have a tripartite mission. And after being at 5 different land-grant universities, sometimes they're connected and sometimes they're disconnected. But in this instance, we have the research, we have the teaching, and we have the extension, the outreach portion, all working together to address those disparities that are impacting African-American communities as it relates to health. From the research standpoint, we're looking at metabolomic type of issues dealing with the cellular level and how these individuals and communities are impacted. Also, from the teaching standpoint, to make sure that our students are prepared to go out and teach current research-based information to individuals as it relates to dietetics, healthy lifestyles, and what have you. And of course, from the outreach standpoint, we are collectively looking at best case practices on how we can address the issues associated with diabetes, obesity, and all of these other areas that made us a little bit disproportionately susceptible to some of the issues associated with this pandemic of COVID-19. So I'm really excited about that. We're just kicking that off, and we just started having our meetings. And my hope is that this is not something that's just going to remain between Louisiana, North Carolina, and Alabama, but this will be something that the entire country will benefit from as we start to get feedback, information, and data as it relates to our plan. So thank you very much for that question.
Well, thank you, and I think that's a very important aspect, and I like your perspective about the various aspects of a university, being the education, the research, as well as the corporate extension, and having them all work together to deliver services to constituents and members of the community. I guess I would like to move on to the idea of the importance of the land-grant universities to the state. And so with that, I would like to go to Dr. Anderson. Would you care to address the importance of the land-grant universities in your perspective to the state?
Very much so. Thank you very much for the question. Having come out of a land-grant university at Purdue University myself, and also having worked at 4 other land-grant universities, I can say that the work that we do to help the local farmers and the community is very critical. And here at UMES, with our center that we have received funding for, the Centers of Excellence for Global Food Security and Defense, we're working with the other 1890 universities and actually helping the farmers improve their systems. And we're doing research in things like pest management to try to help them understand how to increase their knowledge in this particular area, but also how to minimize the pests that are impacting the food that they're eating and they're growing. The other thing that we're doing as far as the land grant institutions is looking at climate changes and trying to make sure we look at what is happening in those particular areas and leveraging and emerging technologies in those so that all of us work together in a unified way to help and impact those particular issues. Thank you very much for the question.
Thank you very much, and I've gone over my time, so I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Congressman Barrett. And now we will hear from the gentle lady from Connecticut, Miss Hayes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you so much to our witnesses for being here today. While Connecticut is not home to any 1890s land grant institutions or our 1862 land grant university, the University of Connecticut, works to pursue connections with graduates to support a diverse group of new and beginning farmers, agricultural educators, and researchers. This is extremely important in a state like Connecticut, where about 1/3 of our residents are residents of color, yet there are very few minority farmers. My question actually could be for anyone on the panel, but I'll ask Dr. Abdullah. How would you describe the role of the 1890s land grant universities in ensuring equity, both in access to higher education and for ensuring equitable employment and business opportunities within the U.S. agricultural sector?
Thank you very much, Representative Hayes. I would love to say that as an 1890 land grant institution that we have more Connecticut residents at Virginia State than any other institution, but I have a sneaky suspicion that my colleagues from Delaware and Maryland are going to dispute that, so I won't say that out loud. Thank you so much for your question. I really firmly believe that our 1890 institutions are critical in access. If I can go back to take the question about the scholarships. One of the important things about the scholarships, and I think ties into access, is one of the things that the scholarship program allows us to do is you have young people who are motivated, who are intelligent, who have the ability to do the work, who might not have the finances to be able to finance an education. All of our 1890 institutions are among or possibly the most affordable institution in our state. And so we try to keep our tuition dollars low, and we provide a quality level of instruction for our students. But the other thing that the scholarship program does is it also starts to attract students who maybe come from urban environments, who have the wrong understanding of what agriculture is, and so they can understand what it means to have a career in the agricultural sciences and ag business. The scholarship program allows students to kind of look at ag and go, wait a minute, I think I can consider agriculture as a career moving forward. And so I think it's critically important. All of our institutions are educating. Our Pell eligible rates, all of them are above 60 to 70%. We are all proud that our institutions are among the nation's leaders in providing access to the American dream for all of our citizens here in the United States of America. And I think that your question also points out the one place that we can have some additional partnerships and collaborations are in those states that don't have an 1890 land grant institution. For students who are interested in pursuing careers in agriculture, and maybe they want to do that in an 1890, but it's not an 1890 in their state, to be able to work closely with the 1862 in that state so that we can provide quality careers and opportunities and send young people back, send citizens to Connecticut to be able to move the economy of Connecticut. And so thank you so much for your question.
Well, thank you for that. Here in Connecticut, we also have many farmers who work in urban agriculture. Currently, our Yukon Extension is looking to bring on new staff to focus on urban agriculture and work with 4-H programs to promote food and agricultural literacy in underserved areas. This is an exciting opportunity for our state, and I want to work to help support these geographically diverse communities in Connecticut 5. Also, on my other committee of Education and Labor, where we're talking about career and technical training, I'm really hoping that we will find funding to promote agricultural programs at the high school level and in our trade schools. I guess with the remainder of my time, Dr. Anderson, can you tell us how your institutions partners and collaborates with organizations like 4-H, FFA, Minorities in Agricultural Resource and Natural Resources and Related Sciences, or different programs that bridge a partnership between institutions and communities.
Representative for the question. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
I had a slight broadband problem, so they came and fixed it. Yes, we have students come into our programs from the manors. We actually have annually students enter the campus to actually be on summer programs, but also work with them throughout the year. We bring these individuals to our campus to meet with our faculty. They work hand in hand with them with the research projects right there in the lab. In addition to that, we have a working farm on the campus. So the students are able to learn from the farming, and our 4-H students mix with them at the same time. So it's really a nice collaboration because you're bringing middle school, high school students to the campus to be here with our students who are freshmen, sophomores, seniors, et cetera, and actually planning and working together. They actually help them learn what the better food preparation and also pesticides, as I mentioned earlier, and how to control that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I apologize for going over, but that was music to my ears to bring these programs to middle and high school students. Thank you so much. I yield back. I'm sorry. Did you hear me? I said I apologize for going over, yes, Mr. Chair, but that answer was music to my ears about bringing these programs to middle and high school students. I yield back.
Yeah, isn't it great? It's bringing music to my ears as well. The great contribution that these scholarships are providing. And now, if I may go to the gentleman from Georgia, Congressman Rick Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and again, thank you for getting us together. Obviously, we got a lot of work to do on the Ag Committee.
Perfect. Just want to make sure you know you're next.
Right, thank you. Okay. Can you hear me okay? Something happened there. Can y'all hear me? Mr. Chairman, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay.
Let me just remind all members, mute yourself when you're not there. We don't want to interfere with anyone speaking. Thank you. Go ahead, Chair.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Well, again, thank you for getting us together today. Obviously, education is important. My family was involved in education. And of course, I too serve on the Education and Labor Committees, and I'm having dual hearings, which is why I am virtual. I was trying to get down to the hearing, but then got caught in the other hearing. But anyway, these things happen while you're in Congress. Obviously, we got a lot of issues we've got to solve. And Mr. Chairman, one of the biggest issues, and I think President Zippy Duvall brought this out in a hearing some time ago, President of Farm Bureau, is labor. And of course, it's very critical as far as education is concerned. But certainly what the American Rescue Plan has done is created, we got 10 million people unemployed. We got 3.5 million people on enhanced unemployment. And of course, we addressed this in the last Farm Bill, but we got 25 million trapped on welfare. And there are lots of opportunities to educate and retrain folks and give them the dignity and respect that they deserve in holding a good job. And of course, in Georgia, our governor has rescinded the federal unemployment benefits, and I think that ends next week. So hopefully this will get folks back to work. But there are also supply chain disruptions. Wood prices we got a problem with that. And then, of course, there are other things about the tax policy that's coming out that will create a tremendous burden on our farmers as far as inheritance taxes. And then, of course, the Waters of the U.S. rule is coming back up. And two, we could address today in this hearing the cost of higher education. Many people in this country now believe that it's unaffordable. And the cost is outrageous. And we have students going in debt that they should never encounter. But because the worst burden is debt. But and I don't know who to direct my questions to, so I'll just ask first, in this current employment picture, what the president's, and of course we got Payne College in my district, and very proud of Payne College, and we've done a lot to help Payne get where it is today. But what opportunities are you seeing for your students out there today in this COVID post-COVID economy? Are you seeing a lot of opportunities for your students? Is it creating a lot of interest? And who would like to address that question?
Congressman Allen, I'm happy
I can address it if you can go ahead on. You can go ahead.
Congressman Allen, I'm happy to answer the question from our perspective. At Delaware State University, we have seen significant increases in interest in health and behavioral sciences. You may know that as of July 1st, we will acquire a small private liberal college down the road, Wesley College, and build our new College of Health and Behavioral Sciences there, which will add significant increases of healthcare practitioners, nurses, and medical professionals and the like. That's been a significant boost for us. We also know that relative to the job market, there's significant need and shortages in those fields. And because of the pandemic, we've seen a significant increase there. Secondarily, I'd say on average, we've also seen a significant increase in our graduate profile overall and specific to agriculture. So a lot of our students at the graduate level are choosing to continue to pursue their education in ag and ag-related sciences. We think that bodes well for research and practitioner training for all, particularly in our extension programs. And then overall, we're very happy to say that 86% of our graduating students find themselves in employment in their discipline or in grad school.
That's what I wanted to hear.
6 months after they graduate. So I think we're all headed in the right direction. I think that's why 1890 land grant institutions are so important.
Well, I tell our educators is your responsibility is to get our folks employed. The other thing I want to do, and I'll leave you with this, and I'm out of time, but we have to address the cost of higher education. And I want to know what this Congress can do. Is it a regulatory issue, or what is it causing all of this increased cost? And hopefully that can be addressed at this hearing. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll yield back.
Thank you very much, Congressman Allen. And now we will turn to the gentleman from Illinois, my good friend, Bobby Rush.
I want to thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, it's very heartening to hear today about the research happenings at the 1890 land grant institution. Today, it strengthened my belief that when it comes to agricultural innovation and our workforce, America is not only competitive in the global economy, but it is indeed the best in the world. Earlier this month, Mr. Chairman, I saw firsthand what our students are accomplishing when I toured the Chicago High School for Agricultural Sciences, which is located in my district. These high school students are competing annually at the national level at the Agri Science Fair, and their talents truly blew me away. Dr. Allen, are there ways that we can provide opportunities for our students at the 1890 land grant institutions, or even earlier at the high school level, to compete and collaborate globally, given how this world that we live in is so interconnected and interrelated?
Congressman Rush, thank you for the question. It's an important one. I should say at Delaware State, we actually operate a high school. We call it the Early College High School. There are about 425 students in that school from 9th to 12th grade. And while they're in that high school, they're able to accumulate upwards of 60 college credits before they're ever admitted into any university. So think of those students coming out of that institution into a university as either a second semester sophomore or first semester junior. We're really proud of that and built that program because we wanted to build a pipeline even earlier than when they started college. I can also say that many of those students have gone into our College of Agriculture, Science, and Technology and have been intrigued not just by what they would think of as the typical agriculture discipline, but also by ag business and the opportunities that lie ahead there. We also have very good relations with about 23 different countries where we are able to expose our students with student and faculty exchanges that give them a sense of the global community and global experience. And
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. I'm running out of time, so I want to move on if I might be able to. All right. I recently introduced the Farm Subsidy Transportation Act along with Senator Booker, and which will require USDA to track and publicly disclose the race and gender of all individuals who receive or who are denied farm assistance. This bill is in response to the decades of discriminatory lending practices which intentionally or otherwise put Black farmers at a serious disadvantage compared to their white counterparts. Dr. Abdullah and Dr. McMeans, would increased transparency help you better assist minority farmers in receiving financial aid? And how can this committee be of assistance to you and to others?
Thank you very much, sir. Makola Abdullah. It definitely would. Understanding and knowing what's happening in the world so that we can begin to make a difference, I think it'd be fantastic. And so without capturing the right data, the whole reason that we know that there have been discriminatory practices in lending is because we have that data in lending. And so that is important, sir.
And this is Orlando McMeans, and you know, this is something that's close to me. Recently, President Biden actually sent a representative down to actually talk to us about the importance of this very issue, and I think Congressman Cedric Richmond, by the way. And we had an opportunity to have dialogue and talk with farmers. And that was one of the questions that they were asking. And I think that our relationship with USDA is imperative, that we have open and frank conversations that we demand on behalf of our socially disadvantaged farmers, that there be transparency. And like President Abdullah said, it's obvious what has gone on for the last 100 years or so. And we have to get down to what are causing these issues and when we're getting loans at a lower rate than counterparts. And so it is my hope that the 1890s will be working closer, not only with USDA and DC, but our local USDA and state agencies to work to make sure that there's transparency, and we are an asset and an advocate to them being more successful and their success rate as it relates to loans and other support for farms. And so we will be looking at that heavily and also pursuing other endeavors as it relates to the 2023 Farm Bill.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Rush, for those comments. Now we'll recognize the gentleman from California. Is that correct? Oh.
Is that me, Mr. Chairman?
I'm sorry, Mr. Moore from Alabama. My mistake.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to the panelists for speaking today before the committee.
and for describing the good work that you guys are doing, and for your students and for the larger agriculture community. I'm proud to help represent represent a state that has two of the land-grant universities, 1890 land-grant universities, obviously Alabama A&M and Tuskegee University. And in my hometown, we have a monument to the boll weevil, and that's because of the work that George Washington Carver did at Tuskegee University that helped us figure out all the uses for peanuts. So we were glad to get away from cotton and get to peanuts. So we have a debt of gratitude in our state to obviously Tuskegee University. And Dr. McMeans, first, it's great to see an alumni from Alabama A&M in such a position of influence and testifying before this committee on these issues today. I'll ask this to you, Dr. McMeans, and then some of the others may want to chime in, but how do each of your institutions collaborate with the other land-grant universities in your state to best meet the needs of your state and its students and to avoid the duplication efforts on research and extension?
Thank you for that question. I think I've been very fortunate because my LSU counterpart, Dr. Bill Richardson, and I knew each other while I was at West Virginia State. And one of the things that you have to understand is that I tell people all the time, Alabama is very unique because we have 3 land grants, but most of us at the most have 2. And but we have so much work that has to be done. Even if we had 3 or 4 land grant institutions, can we really get all the work done? But the thing about it is that one of the things that we're doing, we're working on a joint plan of work. We're working on a joint strategic plan, and we're looking at those areas where we are strong at, and our strengths are working with disadvantaged and minority farmers, and LSU's advantage is working with big commodity groups and big farms and what have you. And we look at those niches where we fit, they fit, but there's a lot of overlap when it comes to youth development. And there was a question earlier about what are we going to do about the workforce for agriculture in the future? Well, we're both working in that area because we have to do what we can to recruit and graduate individuals who will be working in the food and agricultural sciences and related fields. So I think it's imperative that we work together, that we support one another. Some areas we're going to duplicate and overlap because the need is so grand, but those other ones are niches. And the other thing is that we go to the legislature together. We support one another, and we have to do that. And I know once it becomes, when you start dealing with extension and things of that nature, sometimes, yeah, territorialism may jump into it or what have you. But in the best interest of the collective communities and clientele that we serve, it's in the best interest that we work collectively and collaboratively in those areas.
Representative May, I would like to answer the question as well, please. Thank you. Thank you for the question. Here at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore, we are part of a system of 12 institutions, and the University of Maryland College Park is our flagship institution. So we have the luxury of being able to work very collaboratively with one of our sister institutions, who's also the flagship. We do that in a number of ways. Because we're located on the Eastern Shore, 85% of the farmers are here in our particular area. And so our extension groups from both of the institutions work extremely well, going out, helping educate the socially disadvantaged farmers. And because we also are surrounded by the coastal bay areas and the peninsula, we actually help do work with our local farmers, not just with, many people think of us as poultry, but also with what's happening in the aquatic area. And so our 2 institutions have annual meetings together. Our faculty have collaborative research and teaching that they do using some technology like this. We do have broadband issues here on our part. You probably noticed that with me today. But those are the kind of things that we merge and work together on and continue to try to have those kind of partnerships. So thank you again for the question.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. If Mr. Abdul, would you like to answer? Yes, please go ahead. Please do. I have time, so go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Here in Virginia, Virginia State University and Virginia Tech, my colleague from Virginia Tech, Tim Sands, and their agricultural staff, along with ours, led by Dr. McKinney, work very closely together to make sure that, again, as Dr. McMeans mentioned, that we don't duplicate programs and that we use the investments from the state and investments from the federal dollars to help farmers and ranchers here in Virginia, that we use those together in a collaborative manner. Just in the past couple of months, we all met with the entire extension staff across Virginia to kind of share with them the kind of collective vision for the Commonwealth of Virginia and to learn from them. And so we work whether it's at the president level or at the staff level, there's a lot of collaboration to make sure that things work well.
Thanks to our panelists. Mr. Chairman, with that, I'm out of time, so I'll yield back.
Thank you very much, Congressman Moore. Now, if I may, the lady from New Hampshire, my friend, Miss Annie Custer, you're recognized.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate your leadership in elevating racial justice issues on our agricultural committee this year. And much like our discussion on the state of Black farmers back in March, this hearing is timely and long overdue. Through the American Rescue Plan and other measures, we've been working to address systemic inequity facing farmers of color. And in the face of historic discrimination, the number of Black farmers in our country and the amount of land they own has shrunken dramatically and is continuing to decline. It is incumbent upon Congress and the USDA to reverse this trend. It's not only a question of fairness, but also an important investment in the future of our agricultural economy. In order to strengthen our food supply for decades to come, it's imperative that all farmers and producers, regardless of color, have a truly fair chance to thrive as growers and producers. A key piece of this issue is the 1890 institutions, as well as other historically Black colleges and universities, which help passionate and innovative young people hone their skills and develop promising careers in farming. With the average age of farmers and foresters climbing and countless acres of ideal farmland needing to be transitioned to a new generation in the coming years, the role of 1890 institutions has never been more critical. On that note, Dr. Abdullah, I'd like to ask you about a point raised in your testimony. You mentioned that 1890 institutions have a 131-year track record of providing a strong return on investment for every dollar supporting 1890 programs. Could you elaborate on the incredible value that 1890 programs provide to the country as a whole?
Thank you so much. Our programs at our 1890 institutions, whether they're addressing teaching, research, or extension, what you'll find is that all of our programs are addressing the social needs and the socially disadvantaged needs of our communities. When we talk about education, again, and I wanted to highlight one of the congressperson was talking about the high cost of college education. Our 1890 institutions are among the most affordable institutions in the country, and we do that on purpose because we understand how important it is that we provide quality access for students. With our research and extension programs, are concentrate on making sure that we provide critical feedback and critical input for socially disadvantaged farmers and small farmers. That allows more of our farmers, more people access to the food ecosystem and to be ready for the burgeoning economy. We want to make sure in every facet of everything that we do that we are part of making sure that people can achieve the American dream. And that's what we've been doing for so many years. And we firmly believe that a greater investment would then beget a greater return. That we've done incredible work with resources that I believe aren't commensurate with the level of expertise that we have on our campuses. We can educate more students. We can provide more and better research and extension for our small and disadvantaged farmers. We can do that with your help. Thank you, ma'am.
Well, thank you so much. Dr. Allen, we've talked a bit about the incredible research coming out of 1890 institutions. In your written testimony, you described some of the impacts the state of Delaware has experienced as a result of climate change, including increased frequency of Atlantic storms and soil acidification. Can you take a moment to describe the climate impacts you are witnessing across your state and how your university is working to adapt to and mitigate climate change?
Thank you, Congresswoman. And if I could just add on to President Abdullah's commentary about the value of 1890 land grants, I'll turn your attention to the social mobility rankings in U.S. News and World Report. Though that mobility ranking effectively says, can you graduate the lowest resourced students at the same rate that you can graduate all your other students? most HBCUs in the country scored 100 out of 100 on that particular notion. So again, the notion of social mobility for us is paramount to who we are and clear with our mission. With respect to your question about climate change in specific, since 2001, Delaware's been hit by 31 hurricanes and tropical storms. I think you probably know that a lot of our tourism economy relies on our beaches, and there's been significant soil degradation as a result. Our College of Agriculture, Science, and Technology has been studying that issue fairly frequently, has certainly exposed our opportunity for research with our 2 research farms, one for crop diversification and one for animal livestock. And we're also doing a lot of inland fisheries research. We have an aquaculture center, which really investigates the disease along the waterways as it relates to some of the impacts we're seeing from climate change. And we were able to do that with about 20 man-made ponds we have on campus that allow us to do that research as well. So with the land grant mission of all of us really relates to how we impact the states and communities where we serve. And it's been particularly important for us to be very much involved in this work around climate change in Delaware.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I'm so impressed at how you all kept going during COVID-19, and thank you for the great work you do. And with that, I yield back.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kessler. And now I recognize the gentleman from California, Mr. LaMalfa.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate you. Your calm demeanor in running our committee is much appreciated. And so thank you for that. Also for working me in here to bounce between another committee as well. Let me focus on a couple things here with our great panel we have here today and the great heritage and history that you all bring. Now, I know the 23 Farm Bill will be just right around the corner here, and it's not an easy thing to get done. It requires a lot of collaboration, and I'm glad we're having part of this collaboration right now, leading up to it. I wanted to talk about for your universities, and what's the effect we have so much of rural America on the need for our technology for better communication, meaning rural broadband. And that may have been touched on in previous committee today. I'm sorry I was out if this is redundant, but so to the panel here, whoever cares to comment on that, how is your broadband and your communication speeds presently at your facilities, and what more do we need to be doing to better have these ties with each other and to broaden that out for your work and research and how that comes back out to the general public? How's our communications in that area? Anybody on the panel wants to weigh in?
Representative LaMalfa, I would love to start first because my colleagues will tell you yesterday I was unconnected because of broadband, the lack of broadband. But let me tell you, during COVID, we actually, before COVID, was looking at 25,000 interactive minutes per month. After COVID, with our broadband and having to shift, 2 million interactive activities per month. And basically, when all of that activity happens at the same time in our very rural area, you can imagine the interconnectivity problems that we had, not only from our teachers, our students, and even with our extension people going out into our farmers, because many of our local farmers don't have any connection whatsoever. So it made a big difference as far as lack of interconnectivity. It's a huge issue here in our area, and we really hope and really encourage Congress to really try to pay attention and help us out in this regard.
Thank you. Others?
Yes, this is Orlando. It definitely was an issue here in Louisiana. Fortunately, one of the assets that we had is we had a mobile education technology center where we had to actually bring the technology to the individuals, where we had 10 computers that we had to take to individuals. But one of the things as it relates to the pandemic, the governor set up a number of task force, and there may have been about 10 or 15 and the number one priority was broadband in the state of Louisiana. It was the number one priority. And I know that is a priority of the state legislature, and I'm hoping that USDA and Congress can continue to support the 1890s, because most of the individuals we serve are located in a lot of those rural communities.
Certainly.
And we really need to make sure that we help to build up their capacity as it relates to technology and broadband. So that is a priority for us as well.
Thank you. Anyone else on the panel, or does we maybe general thoughts on other things we should be looking for in the 23 Farm Bill as a priority, whether we're talking in areas of additional research in agriculture or in manufacturing technology. What's with my remaining time? Any thoughts on that?
Congressman, it's Tony Allen. Let me just comment with my colleagues on broadband issues. Sure. We actually have my CIO participating in a hearing today on that issue with the acting FCC chairman. In Delaware, there are not many distinctions between our rural and urban settings, but I can tell you that it has been an issue, and it's largely an issue because not only is the concern on campus, but in many of the communities that those students returned home to, particularly during COVID, it became a significant concern. So we see it as universal, connecting back to what we're able to accomplish at the university and what they're able to accomplish when they go home. Relative to some of the other opportunities, I think that are important for you all to continue to consider as we think about ag business and building some interdisciplinary opportunities for our students. It is very important to them that they see it as an opportunity to really understand the business of agriculture and being able to help farmers of all different abilities and ethnicities to build their capacity to grow as well. So the practitioners around the agricultural community are very important, and you can support building resources for those disciplines. I think it's going to be very important to the overall industry.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Allen. I'm a farmer in my real life, and I know that we need to have a lot broader understanding of what it is that we're all doing, or we're all facing out there in order to keep our country fed and clothed, et cetera. So thank you, panelists. I'll yield back to Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Congressman LaMalfa. I really appreciate that line of questioning. And now I'd like to recognize the gentleman from Florida, my good friend, Mr. Al Lawson, who is also a graduate of an 1890 called Florida A&M.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and it's a real honor to have these distinguished panel here today, and it's good to see Dr. Abdullah again. I haven't seen him in a while, and I would like to say that to Merrill Easton Show, my brother-in-law, Dr. Henry Brooks, worked there throughout his career, and his father was also in agriculture at Florida A&M University and a professor. And so I've been around farming a great deal. It's just that when I married his daughter, I couldn't hardly take care of the farm, so being a basketball person, but my parents farm on weekends in the country, and they worked at the university during the day to help bring in other resources. So I can't say enough about how the chairman worked so hard on the scholarship program. And I remember one day when I told him that the scholarship was not in the budget, he almost went crazy, and Sonny Perdue, who was secretary, had a lot to do with it. Conaway and Colin Peterson, the former chairman, and working on this. So it was a great accomplishment to have the opportunity to serve on them. And these scholarships, I had a nephew to benefit. I was telling Dr. Taylor at FAMU to benefit from the scholarship program. They graduated this spring, and we'll be working in Washington, D.C. at the Department of Agriculture, which is incredible in agribusiness. My question would be really to the panel is that in what way would you like to See, the USDA and our community not only support, but advance the ways of 1890 land grants and able to conduct extensive service within their community. What barriers are holding your institution back from doing more in your areas? And I say that to say, how do we go forward? In the next farm bill, scholarships are great, but what do we need to help put you more and more on a level playing field? And that's to the whole panel.
Congressman Lawson, it is so good to see you, sir. I think the last time I saw you, I was dean at FAMU. It is really good to see you. I'll take the question if it's okay. I think one of the biggest challenges that we have, and we've talked about funding, and so I'm going to move to just opposite of funding, is making sure that those in Congress and those at USDA really understand the true value of our institutions and the true value of the partnership really that already exists. Our infrastructure and our 19 schools across 18 states are an incredibly valuable resource to tackle any number of problems in this country. I believe that had we really understood the true magnitude of the COVID-19 challenge at the 1890 institutions in terms of really addressing health disparities in our area, addressing some of the broadband issues in our area, addressing some of the challenges with education, because now with broadband, education and broadband become a public need. That we were really at the ready to begin to help, but I'm not sure that everyone knew, and maybe we didn't know, but everyone didn't know the way that we could all work together. I think with you, and I mentioned this earlier, but to have two rattlers on this committee, to have Dr. Jewel Bernal, who's the former dean of Ag at Virginia State University, be the deputy secretary of Agriculture. I think making sure that the 1890s and the 1890 system is really at the table to begin to help address the needs of our country and the needs of agriculture in our country is critically important. So I really want to applaud the committee, because I think that this is really a part of that work and making sure that Congress and that our entire nation understands the value of our 1890 land grant universities.
Marilyn needs to show up. Got a few seconds.
If I may, I would just like to
responded very, very well. And I agree, the collaborative effort of our 19 universities really can be powerful. And I think that's the message that I would want to get across to this particular panel. Just recognizing that the collaborative work that we can do can really solve many of the problems that our citizens have in the country, from food insecurity all the way to healthcare disparities, and blending those two. And you can tell that on this particular panel today, President Allen, Del State, and we work together. President Abdullah and I are talking about how to work together with healthcare disparities. And I would agree with the message, making sure that people recognize the power in the numbers that we have here.
For that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you, Congressman Lawson. And now we will go to Ms. Letlow from Louisiana.
Chairman Scott, Ranking Member Thompson, members of the committee and witnesses, thank you for taking the time to discuss continuing opportunities and investment in the success of 1890 land grant institutions. As discussed here today, 1890s play a pivotal role in the mission of agriculture, education, research, and extension services. In the past, this committee has made great strides to improve capacity and access to assistance for these institutions of learning. The critical work engineered by land grant institutions goes a long way in ensuring our American farmers remain the safest, most abundant food supply in the world. In addition, HBCUs in Louisiana have a vested history in providing educational opportunities and contributing to the successful futures of many young men and women throughout the 5th District and across the state. When I first joined this committee, I shared with the ranking member my sincere concerns with the aging population we're experiencing in agriculture today. While there are existing programs targeting young, beginning and small farmers, I'm eager to get to work with my colleagues in exploring new avenues to not only get beginning farmers into agriculture, but to keep them there. Agriculture is the backbone of my district, accounting for 49% of the agriculture output in the state. Our hardworking farmers, rangers, and loggers contribute to the overall rural economies, and it's essential for our region in Louisiana that agriculture continues on for generations to come. My question is for Dr. McMeans. Given that Southern University's Agriculture Research and Extension Center encompasses programs and services set aside for this effort, can you share with the committee how the center contributes to and benefits small-scale farms with limited resources to help them maintain viable farming operations?
What did she say? What did she say? Is she directing? Who is she directing? The
To Mr. McNeese. Dr. McNeese.
Mr. McNeese?
Yes.
Dr. McNeese, I think that question was directed to you. Is his...
I can repeat it.
Yeah, if you could repeat it, and perhaps Mr. McNeese may check his mic system.
Okay, yeah,
You have it?
Am I good?
Yes. Go ahead,
Okay.
Doctor.
Okay, yes, we have a really, what I call when I came aboard 2 years ago, one of the more successful land grant programs, at least the outreach, that I see in the nation. And we have it's called our Enhancing Capacity of Louisiana Small Farms and Business Certification Program. It offers certification in small business development, food safety, dealing with small ruminants and sustainable urban agriculture. And so we have connected with over 400 clientele and trained them on virtual platforms, even during the pandemic. And so actually take this to the individuals across the entire state of Louisiana. And I'm happy to say one of the things that we are invested in is thanks to USDA, Congress, and also the state of Louisiana. We have hired an additional 11, 12 individuals to work in the area of agricultural outreach. And this is so important to me. And we're coordinating this, going back to a previous question, with LSU, Ag Center. So we're working together, and we understand and value the importance of small farms. I mean, we can talk about socially disadvantaged farmers and minority farmers, but when you look at where the potential for us to grow in the state of Louisiana, it's those small farms, and making sure that we give them the resources adequate enough for them to become prosperous. Prosperous small farms, prosperous Louisiana. So we're excited about that.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that, Dr. McMeans. That's so encouraging to hear, especially Southern University's efforts to enhance opportunities for not only small farmers, but for the next generation and agriculture-related professionals. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back the remainder of my time.
Thank you, Congress lady. Appreciate that. And now we will recognize the distinguished lady from Washington, Ms. Kim Schreier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for convening this hearing on a very important topic. I want to focus on an essential issue that a few of our witnesses touched on, our nation's agricultural research infrastructure. Modern agricultural research and education facilities serve as the backbone of our nation's cutting-edge agricultural and food research enterprise. But according to a 2021 report by the Association of Public and Land-Grant Universities, 69% of research facilities at U.S. colleges are at the end of their useful life. The cost of upgrading deferred maintenance on these buildings is estimated at $11.5 billion. Advances in agriculture and food innovation are the foundation of the U.S.'s rich tradition in food and farm entrepreneurship. And our research facilities not only generate solutions, but also aid in recruiting a whole new generation of diverse scientists, innovators, and agricultural leaders. That's why I support addressing our deferred research maintenance backlog and increasing investments in the next generation of ag research. Now, Dr. Anderson, Dr. Jones, and Dr. McMeans, in your testimonies, you all mentioned the urgent need for funding to replace or renovate outdated research facilities. And I was wondering, Dr. Anderson, can you provide a little more detail on the status of agricultural research facilities at your university and the kinds of deferred maintenance projects that your university needs?
Very much, Representative, for the question. I'd be happy to provide some other insights. At our university, as I mentioned earlier, we have 88 buildings. This is accounting for 1.8 million gross square feet. The average age of all of our buildings is 44 years, and our deferred maintenance is over $90 million. If you look specifically at agriculture, one of our key buildings, Trigg Hall, was built in 1954. And it sits on what we call our academic oval. It is on the National Registry. But that particular building has poor HVAC system. It has outdated electrical system. Yes. There is no wireless in that building. And because it is a historic building, you can imagine just doing something as simple as changing the windows becomes very, very problematic because of the historic nature of the building. Carver Hall is where we have our students first introduced to biology. And they come to us for a number of STEM students we have on our campus, and yet that building has poor ventilation and poor circulation. Over 50 years, the building's over 50 years old. So those are just the type of examples. Just to renovate the one building, Trigg Hall, for our agriculture research extension program is at, would be over $25 million. And in addition, we had an opportunity here to grow our ag experiment station, but we are also short in the funding on that particular resource. And finally, I would like to just say, we're working to help our poultry farmers and as well as the other farmers that I've mentioned here on the Lower Eastern Shore. And we have an opportunity to look at adding veterinary sciences, but we cannot do it in the existing infrastructure that we have.
That's it's astounding. You know, these are the buildings where we're doing scientific research, and they are this old and this decrepit. We actually have a facility, we don't have any 1890s in Washington State, but we have a facility with no indoor plumbing. So I just want to thank you for underscoring that urgent need and making really clear what you need and the real state of our lack of investments. So a multi-year investment will reposition the United States for long-term success and competitiveness and leadership in global agriculture and food research. It will keep us competitive. Now, estimates suggest that strategic federal investments in these facilities at land-grant and non-land grant schools, agriculture, would create 200,000 new jobs nationwide. And each dollar invested in agricultural research at public land-grant institutions provides abundant, strong returns to the economy. So in the coming weeks, I will be joining with my colleagues in sending a letter to congressional leadership urging the prioritization of a once-in-a-generation investment to reposition the United States for success in food and agricultural research. I'm hoping others here today will join me, and I thank you all again for participating today. Thank you very much. I yield back.
Thank you very much, Ms. Schreier. And I'm so delighted you mentioned that last item, and we all join with you. That's a very noble endeavor. And now let me recognize Ms. Fishbach, the gentlelady from Minnesota.
Well, thank you very much, and I apologize. I had to pop out for a very quick Rules Committee meeting, and but I did catch the, I guess, at least part of Congressman Schreier's questions with Dr. Anderson, and maybe this is more for everybody. When I was in the state legislature, we did, and it's not in 1890, but a land grant University of Minnesota, and the state did a lot of the funding for buildings and things like that. So just throwing it out there, I'm kind of curious about the state support that the schools are getting. But in addition to that, I also was kind of wondering, I know that funding is a top priority, but also just kind of wondering if there was something else that the House Ag Committee could do to help the universities achieve their goals. So kind of those two questions, and I will open it up to whichever witness has some input on that.
Congresswoman, let me at least take a part of that question in terms of your comment about state support. You're absolutely correct. The states, or at least the state of Georgia, plays a very pivotal role in supporting our 26 public institutions relative to deferred maintenance. But there's such a backlog. The state appropriates somewhere between 40 and 60 million for those 26 institutions annually. We might receive anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million. But when you think about it over time, it's almost impossible for with the current funding structure to stay on top of these challenges that we are facing on our campus from a deferred maintenance perspective. So I think we need the sort of dual partnership from the federal and the state level to help us to address these deferred maintenance challenges. But you're absolutely correct. The states are playing a vital role, but we could use that additional support, and that's why this infrastructure bill is so critical for the 1890 community and beyond.
Thank you very much. And if anyone would love to add anything about what else could, like I said, I know that funding is a priority, but are there other things that we could do at our level that would be helpful for the universities?
Congresswoman, the only thing I would add is the public-private partnerships that really help us thrive here at Delaware State University. We have a couple in play in the ag community, most notably FMC, which is an ag sciences company that does fellowships, faculty and employee exchange and joint research projects. But if you can continue to encourage the private sector to be connected with 1890s as we build capacity for our students to get real world experience really at the start of their educational careers, those things are really important and vital to how they come into those professions and the return that I think the businesses themselves get on recruiting those young people. As I said, we've created some unique partnerships in the ag community with some private companies, but certainly not enough. And to have the voices come from a committee like this around those relationships, I think would be very important.
That's actually my favorite question, Congresswoman Fishback, and I apologize if it sounds like I'm repeating myself, but I do love that question. I do think that we have a unique opportunity as a group of 19 institutions across 18 states that have been committed to making sure that we help socially disadvantaged farmers, ranchers, and students. That we're an incredible network that I think that Congress and the USDA can really look at to help solve problems, future problems that maybe we're not even working on today. And so having us be here is for you to be able to lean on us to help solve the nation's problems is something that we're very interested in. And so we really appreciate you asking what else can you do? We want to be that valuable resource to help the nation move beyond the challenges that we have.
The only thing that I would like to add, Congresswoman, is the fact that looking at infrastructures broadly, not just our aging buildings that we have, like I said earlier on the deferred maintenance, but this whole issue of the broadband and also the human capital that's important as well. I think that, and the strength of our 19 universities together. Thank you.
Well, and my time is almost up, but I appreciate the responses, and I appreciate that this is just the beginning of the conversation. As I ask about what we need to do, obviously there's a lot more discussion, a lot of things that we can do into the future. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much, and I yield back.
Thank you very much, Congress Lady Fishbach, for your very pertinent questions. And now I would like to recognize a gentleman from California, Mr. Panetta.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate this opportunity, and thanks to all the witnesses for your time today and, of course, your service. And also, clearly want to thank you for all you're doing for leading our nation's 1890s institutions. Dr. Abdullah and Dr. Jones, welcome back. And as you know from our conversation in December, I represent the Central Coast of California. And I'm sure you know well the farmers and farm workers in my district are a part of the very rich agricultural history in the region, including the stories and leadership of people like Cesar Chavez, who advocated tirelessly for farm workers and whose legacy continues to guide us as we work to address the systemic inequity in our federal farm programs. Now, I know this inequity has posed significant barriers to success for Black farmers nationwide. And although no set of circumstances is the same, clearly there are parallel challenges that exist for farmers and farm workers of color in the Salinas Valley. And as we look to developing a once-in-a-generation infrastructure package, and later as we look to writing the next farm bill, we need to make sure that we are listening to these producers, these farmers, and these farm workers. Now, building off of the last few questions and addressing our agricultural infrastructure, I think we understand clearly, as has been expressed by the witnesses and yes, the questioners, deferred maintenance backlog is critical if we want to maintain American leadership in agriculture research and development. And today, the overall share of the research, the R&D spending as a percentage of the GDP is at its lowest since the 1950s. Shockingly, food and agricultural research in this country lags even further behind most other federal areas. And at the exact same time, other countries, including, yeah, that's right, China, are investing heavily in R&D. That's why I believe, and I think you'll agree, that we in Congress must work to develop an infrastructure package. And that's why I'm making sure with the letter that Dr. Schreier talked about, all of us there most of us on the Ag Committee are working together to call for leadership to make sure that there's strong, robust investment of at least $40 billion. Once again, $40 billion for agricultural research, including at least $11.5 billion for ag research facilities that we talked of earlier. I do believe, and I think you'll agree, that it's that type of level of funding which is critical if we want to provide socially disadvantaged and beginning farmers and producers, along with established producers and farmers, to the tools and knowledge they need to be successful in the 21st century. And so what I pose to you, Dr. Jones, Dr. Anderson, and Dr. McMeans, if that's all right, as we work to develop this huge infrastructure package, I think we know, do you think that type of level of funding and that type of level of investment is necessary?
Well, this is Orlando. I'll go first. And anybody who has read my written testimony, that was probably a third of what I wrote about. I think an investment in research is an investment in the United States and is an investment in economic development. The other thing is that as we talk about, first of all, the answer to your question is yes. That was music to my ears right there, because I'm a part of the APLU's initiative on increasing research capacity via this infrastructure funding. And so what I say is that, and I hate to say this, but we're falling behind as it relates to our competitiveness in the area of R&D as it relates to agriculture. Agriculture is essential, foundation, and fundamental to the advancement of the United States and our standing in the global community. So I say this to say that this is so important to me that when I was ranking priorities, I said infrastructure number one, agriculture number two, but infrastructure as it relates to agriculture means a more prosperous America. And so I want to thank you, first of all, for what you're proposing. And I hope that and encourage others to jump on board, because I just think that's a game changer that will make us more prosperous. And it's also, we're talking about food security, sustainability, and all of that. So thank you so much for proposing that. And I don't think anybody's going to say, no, that's not enough money, because you said the word B. So the billion is always good.
And I would jump in as well, Representative. I agree. None of us can say no to that. The answer is yes. And it's very simple. The world is growing. We have more people in the country. We have to take care of their food needs. And we have to have research infrastructure to help us deal with climate needs going forward. So the answer is yes, yes, and the more the better. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. Jones, thumbs up or thumbs down? There you go. I yield back, Mr. Chairman. I'll take that. Thanks, Dr. Abdullah, and then Dr. Allen. Thank you. I yield back.
And thank you, Congressman Pandetta. You brought up some excellent points, and we have really got to maintain strength and our strong position. China, as you mentioned, along with Russia, there's no way we can let them get ahead of us. And I thank you for mentioning that as well. And now I'd like to recognize a distinguished member from Georgia, my good friend Sanford Bishop. And I think I mentioned before that Sanford is also our subcommittee chairman on appropriations for agriculture. And Sanford has played a critical role in us securing the $80 million for our scholarship program, which means he is definitely a very vital part of our efforts here to make our scholarship program. And so Sanford has played a very important role in that, and we all appreciate it. And I just wanted to say that in my introduction of him. Sanford, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the tremendous leadership that you have given to this committee. Let me welcome all of our presidents, but let me give a special shout out to my president, Dr. Paul Jones from the Fort Valley State University. Dr. Jones has done such a tremendous job, and I've got a couple of questions that I want to raise, which touch on finances. Dr. McMeans, I think, referenced it in his testimony, talking about the glaring differences in financial support for the 1862 institutions versus the 1890 institutions, and also the one-to-one funding matches, because it seems to be quite frequent that the one-to-one funding match from the respective state legislatures that are tasked with funding our 1890s don't match with the 1862s. And a question for anyone who will, and you can start with Dr. Jones, is how would you describe the working relationship between your institutions and the 1862 counterparts within your states, specifically in the context of joint education, joint research, and joint extension activities? And how can Congress, in your opinion, facilitate this relationship and create opportunities for more collaboration between the 1890s and your 1862 counterparts? What I have done, my 1862 is always beating down my door for research projects. And of course, I have tried to the extent that I could to insist that they collaborate with our 1890s. And that has worked in some instances, and in other instances it has not. But let me hear from you with your thoughts with regard to that.
Well, first of all, Congressman Bishop, good afternoon, and great to see you again. And we appreciate tremendously what you have done for this institution and for the district here. Let me just say that because of you, we, particularly during my tenure, we've seen tremendous growth in our partnership with University of Georgia. Joint research opportunities with both the University of Georgia and our agricultural research stations. And that is proven to have tremendous impact on our institution and on, I believe, those institutions as we're forging greater partnerships and looking for other ways in which we can strengthen those relationships. As you know, we are co-located with University of Georgia in the 35 counties that we represent from an extension perspective. And that allows, I think, those agents to work very closely together as they are, I'm sure, throughout the 1890 system. But I would say that Congress, if we can continue to take that kind of approach in pushing the 1862s more towards collaboration, I think you'll see tremendous results as we are seeing. So again, I can't thank you enough for setting the stage for growth in this regard.
Anyone else?
Congressman Bishop, first of all, I know you represent Georgia, but it's always nice to see a fellow Mobilian on it. So it's great to see you again.
Georgia claimed me, but Alabama named me.
That's right. That's right. So first of all, I want to thank you for all the support that you've given to the 1890s. I visited with you, and your door is always open to us, and so I thank you for that. And I think it's we're in 34 of the 64 parishes in Louisiana, and for the most part, we're co-located with LSU. We work daily with one another. We have the same boards that we answer to, or commissions. And so it's working well, especially for extension. And as I stated earlier, our strength is in our unity and working collaboratively. And I think that the main thing is that we cannot lose focus that our mission is the same, and that is for the betterment of the citizens and communities that we collectively serve. So in everything that we do, we want to work together. It's always good, and I thank you, and I hope others will follow, encouraging the 1862 to work with 1890s to support efforts. I will go on record, and I don't know whether he's on here, but my counterpart at LSU basically conveyed to me, he's like, this is some of the things that you guys are very strong in, and so we will support you in that endeavor. But we're also are developing academic programs together. We're developing research programs together. And so it's the last couple of years at Southern University, I've really enjoyed working with my 1862 counterpart. And I see the value going forward as that relates to our similar missions. But the main thing is Louisianians will benefit more so.
Thank you. I believe my time has expired, but thank you very much. And if someone else asks another question, can talk about the inequities between the funding for the 1890s and the 1862s, I'd appreciate hearing your thoughts on that.
All right. Thank you, Congressman Bishop. And now I'd like to recognize the gentle lady from the Virgin Isles, Miss Plaskett. You're recognized for 5 minutes. Ms. Plaskett is also the subcommittee chairman of the Biotechnology, Horticulture, and Research Subcommittee. Does a wonderful job and is our partner in helping our 1890s. Ms. Plaskett, you're recognized.
Thank you so much to Mr. Chairman Scott, and to our ranking member, and to the witnesses who are with us today. Because I am the subcommittee chair of Biotech, Horticulture, and Research, my first question is related to research. Mr. Jones, I'd like to start by touching on the importance of investing in agricultural research. As you may know, the United States share of overall research and development spending as a percentage of GDP is now at its lowest point since the 1950s. Food and agriculture lag even further behind most other federal research and development areas. Additionally, agricultural research funding at the USDA has remained flat over the last 50 years, while funding for other federal research agencies has increased 10, 20-fold during that same period. My question is, in your opinion, how important is it for the United States to increase our federal investment in agricultural research, especially as other countries around the globe heavily invest in those same agricultural research and development?
Well, thank you for that question. What I would say real quickly is that I think there's much of the country oftentimes does not understand that when we think of agriculture, agriculture is everything. And I think it's so critical that we make these investments. It's an economic development question in our country. And so to invest here will make significant impact across the country. And I think that you're hearing that theme throughout the testimonies from the various leaders here today, is that the importance of those investments that will, the investment here is growing our economy. And so I think there needs to be even more focus on what we do in this area of agriculture, and we support that 100%.
Thank you very much. Dr. McMeans, we talked about the role that extension services at 1890 institutions play in addressing historic discrimination, longstanding racial disparities in the agricultural sector. The information that you've given in your testimony is profound as to the jarring statistics. Congress took steps to address these disparities in the American Rescue Plan by providing $1 billion to provide technical assistance to socially disadvantaged farmers, with at least 1% of these funds to be used at 1890 institutions. What additional steps should Congress and the Biden administration take to support farmers of color and address these longstanding disparities? Thank you.
Thank you for the question, and thank you for your support. You know, one of the things that we are so thankful and appreciative. I know, as I'm speaking for my other 1890 leadership and research director and experiment station directors, and in that the $4 billion goes a long ways in supporting those farmers. However, the fact of the matter is specific for certain USDA loans. My hope is that we will continue to look at ways that we will support financially our socially disadvantaged farmers. In particular, I'm speaking about the Black farmers. I've had the opportunity to listen to testimonies firsthand about discrimination, and some of it is so deplorable and despicable. You can't really talk about it, on this particular Zoom. But I say this to say that there's still a lot more work to be done to make sure that our minority and small farmers feel like they're a part of the advancement of agriculture for the United States, because they make up the larger amount of farmers in the United States. And I think that 1% that's going to the 1890s, I would really hope that the administration will look to increase those resources so that our extension individuals through human capital will be able to more outreach to our farmers that we have historically served, because it's very imperative that we have those individuals work with these farmers, whether that's paperwork, whether that's knowing about loans, whether that's knowing about crops and things of that nature. There's so much for us to do, but I think an investment in 1890s is an investment in small and minority farmers as well.
Thank you very much, and I yield back.
Thank you, Ms. Plaskett. And now, ladies and gentlemen, as we reach the conclusion of this extraordinarily impactful hearing, I want to thank all of our witnesses for giving some of the most riveting and informative testimonies here on behalf of the importance and significance and history of our great 1890 institutions. And before I give my adjournment and my closing statement, I want to recognize my friend here and partner, our ranking member, for any closing statements he would like to make.
Chairman, thank you so much. Thank you for your leadership on this this hearing. Incredibly important topic. Thank you to every member of our panel. I thought the information they shared is reflective of their outstanding leadership in those institutions of higher learning that they help lead. I'll just close. Also, I think we'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you to a gentleman I had the privilege of serving in when we were doing the 2018 Farm Bill, when we made much of these enhancements happen. I had the privilege of serving as vice chair of the full committee, and that's Chairman Mike Conaway, whose leadership, just very effectively played such a key role of achieving these improvements, enhancements, and no less than 6 specific sections in the 2018 Farm Bill that was dedicated to our 1890 land-grant colleges. And I think that's it's a testament to his leadership, and much appreciate that. And I look forward to continuing our work together as we support these great agriculture-based universities, colleges that just serve all things rural, which is so important. And with that, I'll yield back.
And let me just echo what you said, my friend, about Mike Conaway, because ladies and gentlemen, you may not know this, but Mike Conaway was the chairman, a Republican chairman of this committee, when we were able to get the $80 million for our scholarship program, truly bipartisan. And Mike Conaway played an important role. And by the way, his congressional district represents Prairie View, which is an 1890s land grant. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I think you have seen a great display here of the strong bipartisanship from the intense interest of both our Democratic members and our Republican members. And in closing, let me just say this, that agriculture, as I often say, is without question our single most important industry. It is the food we eat, the clothes we wear, our shelter, our water. It's all of these things that we cannot do without. On top of that, in 44 of our 50 states, agriculture is the largest, most important part of 44 of our states' economies out of 50. And so you see how important agriculture is, and the role that African Americans have played in establishing agriculture as the premier agriculture industry in the world, and the role that our 1890s institutions play now. And so I think you have seen the intense interest and support from both sides of the aisle for the continuation of our work we're doing in all of the areas, in research, in terms of helping with the infrastructures of our institutions. It's right here in Congress. And now we must go forward and establish this 1890s land grant colleges and universities scholarship program permanent, so that for generations to come, African Americans and others. Our land-grant African American colleges and universities have college students from all races, all colors. And that's the way America is. And so to say in closing, our agriculture system is for everybody. And nobody demonstrates that more than our land-grant 1890s colleges and universities. So I just want to say thank you. We move forward. Nothing is easy. We've got a challenge to move ahead and make sure that our 1890s are totally involved in the movement forward of our great agriculture system, of our great nation, the United States of America. Thank you, and I must read the correct. Under the rules of the committee, the record of today's hearing will remain open for 10 calendar days to receive additional material and supplementary written responses from the witnesses to any questions posed by members. And I just want to say, I thank God for this extraordinary hearing and for this great opportunity He has given to each of us. This hearing of the Committee on Agriculture is adjourned.